The sizzling sausage. Studs on cement. Sport in the crisp wintry air. When the drawbridge goes up, see the absolute state of it. You're with Pez and Higgos, it's the circus.
The AFL started, but not really, after a couple of games that were mid at best, in a city hosting that doesn't count. Hockball looks the business, but their away jerseys do not. Is it time for Collingwood to collect their wooden spoon? Panic Stations Deluxe over GWS Pie demolition. There's also score bug mania, coach sprays to opposition benches, and finding out what's good for the game. There were great crowds in the NRL this weekend after Manly demolished the Cowboys, Brisbane smashed the Roosters, Dragons fans throwing pies at Bulldogs fans, and Dan Ginnane going all Bill Clinton on Twitter about what was and wasn't said on commentary. Channel 9 presenter, radio host, podcaster, and best-selling author Marlee Silva is on the show to discuss 90s League's wags, the state of the game, broadcasting on the sidelines, and Daily Mail headlines with Nico Hines. India win the Invisible Champions Trophy in one of the most depressing tournaments in sports history. Not that anyone cares. The IPL starts in 2 weeks, and Australia will host England in Melbourne in 2027 for a celebration of 150 years of Test cricket. Somehow, India will win that too. There's also Fiji and Rugby Union fallout, F1 in Melbourne, Manchester United's new stadium, the Sidemen charity match at Wembley, college football class action, US really baton assault, boys actually, your Speakpipes and everything in between. My name is Ian Higgins, Sam Perry. This is the week of sport, and it's all kicking off.
It is, so much so that the little Pray See You provided outstretched the underbed music that we have. So we ran out of time.
Yeah.
That's how much is going on in the world of sport. As always, we handed over the punters to begin with.
Yeah.
Here goes. So we've arranged Speakpipes this week. Here's a selection of how the punters are feeling out there in clubland, in football land, post-Cyclone Alfred, depending on where you're from, etc. Charlie, can you let us have a listen? Yeah, just a little building intro there.
Okay.
Tahs are undefeated, fellas. My RMs are too big for my tiny little private school fees. Cheers.
So glad the footy's back. There's nothing better than conceding 2 tries off blatant forward passes and losing by 8 points. NRL absolutely flying as usual, and it's only March.
Dragons.
Free the Cogra Pie Man.
Boys just need some advice after taking in 2 games of footy over the opening weekend. I'm just wondering that after watching the Sunday footy show First Crack, Extra Time, Footy Feast, The Wash Up, Kane's Call, AFL Tonight, On the Couch, AFL 360, The Agenda Setters, Footy Classified, Access All Areas, just how often should I be resetting my agenda?
What's getting me hot? Mark Marquez is winning races on a factory Ducati. Max Plath is scoring tries for the Dolphins. I've got 5 days off work for a cyclone that's fucking nowhere near my house. And I don't play cricket anymore. Fuck yes.
Fuck, that's good.
That's good.
We're 1 week into the Tigers finally having something good, and Bulldog Richie's already talking about Luai leaving for Paris. This is why we can't have nice things.
Cooper Connolly should be sent back to the VFL.
Boys, I don't know if you've realised, but every single Indian Champions Trophy win has been one with an asterisk on it. 2002, their first quote-unquote win, declared co-champions with Sri Lanka in a rained-out game.
Ugh.
Second win, 2013, against England. Rain-affected match, down to a 2020. Sure, they got the win in the end by 5 runs. But, is it a one-day game if it's 2020? I don't think so. Asterisks. And now, this current win in Dubai, home turf, no travel required.
Well,
I think you got to put an asterisk on that. At the end of the day, I don't think any of these really count in the end. I think it's asterisk.
Who gives a fuck?
Is what it is.
It was a great win.
Could we get the baritone boys on the couch together? Josh from Kick It Forward, Broden Kelly, and Alex Malcolm. Not to be confused with Malcolm in the middle, but I guess you could put him in the middle.
Boys, fuck the footy. I want to hear about Higgos' bucks.
Yeah, so I'm taking my girlfriend to the footy on Sunday, but she doesn't have AirPods, so she can't listen to the SEN commentary while we're at the stadium. I can't personally watch the footy unless I'm listening to the SEN commentary. So do you guys have any suggestions on how we can get through this? Thanks.
It's F-sharp. It's Gildo Baggards on a fucking mint. It's Ponga sweeping it off the back of it.
Nice.
It's Schrodinger's dynasty up at Newcastle. It's everything that we've been waiting for since 3 Spoons. Loving it.
That's a sweep. That's a sweep of the punters' views.
Yeah.
Here you go. So a bit of night stuff, Tigers.
Yeah. I
what
feel
do
for the guy who's going to the footy with his partner.
Yeah.
You could do the classic thing that you see on trains occasionally where people just play music out loud.
Yeah.
You should play the audio from your phone.
That's right.
And I'm sure that wouldn't annoy anyone.
No. Well, that seems to be increasingly the case. Yeah, so that's a sweep of the punters' views. Just a couple of odds and ends here goes before we get into the sports proper. So, look, one of the greatest faux pas and irritations of anybody in the podcast game is when a new podcast arrives on the scene, and for some reason the iTunes or Spotify algorithm likes to incentivize them, encourage them by putting them atop the charts week one.
Yep.
Right, the podcast charts.
Yeah.
Charlie, turn that off. I mean, it actually would kind of work.
Yeah, that would
and,
work.
That really annoys people when people do that. Go, oh, look, we're atop the charts, even though we just started.
We're the best.
We're the best.
Yeah.
Which is why we didn't tell everybody that we're number one across sport, or etc. week one with the circus. Okay, it's just a faux pas. You don't do it, right? And number one across news and number one at comedy. But when you're number one week three, week two, week three, then you probably have to call it out a little bit, and it's actually grinding people's gears.
Okay,
that's why I'm saying this, because I just noticed a week ago. Lucy Zelic on 2GB 873. He's recently taken a job there, and respect to Lucy Zelic. Always enjoyed her work across the football, in particular. Always enjoyed a wonderful pronouncer, a correct pronouncer of names, etc. In particular, her brother, a midfielder par excellence for Socceroos. He was
a good player.
He was a good player, but she made comment about Albo's podcast press tour recently,
rightfully so.
And I saw, and there were graphics therein from 2GB. And the quote was, he's got time to go and chat to morally loose podcasters, but can't share his details for policies. Now there's a picture of him with Abby Chatfield there, but we're receiving drive-bys. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
And it wasn't just limited to Lucy.
Are we copping strays?
Oh, strays. That's just fucking drive-by. They're just straight into us, I reckon. It's a carjacking. Because there's another radio station where the head sort of referred to us as well. Said it was a little bit of humour, but once again, people are just getting a little bit testy about Albo stopping by.
Okay.
Again, shout out Lucy Zelic, a media operator par excellence. Now, just on Albo, he goes, you put it to him a couple of weeks ago that he should consider wearing a Wallabies jacket as he's walking around.
I did.
Okay. And he said John Howard is in no way my...
No.
I don't put words in his mouth, but no way my hero or...
Yeah, something like that,
North Star or whatever.
Right.
A couple of weeks later, neck minute.
Yeah, I saw this.
He's up there with the military, with Cyclone Alfred in a Cricket Australia jacket.
Interesting.
Is he taking advice from podcasters, from morally loose podcasters such as Ian Higgins? I don't know if people saw that.
Yeah.
So it's just a couple of things.
And he was holding a sex toy in allegiance with Abby Chatfield.
And so would we.
100%.
Hey, here's a guess. I just got a guess for you. Who gets more viewers or listeners, Abby Chatfield or Lucy Zelic on 2GB? Just something to think about.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Something to think about.
Old media, new media stuff.
These
State of origin gear.
These dirtbag podcasters copping strays from establishment media.
Yeah.
Is there? I wonder why they're picking on us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't know.
Well, it's something to think about. Pezza, speaking of podcasters sliding into traditional media,
exactly.
These two broadcasters will be on Channel 7 Sunday Footy Feast this Sunday, starting because the season proper starts of the AFL this coming weekend. I know there's a couple of games in Sydney on the weekend.
People thought we were joking when we talked about joining the footy media revolution.
It would have been a fair assumption to suggest that we were joking, but we're not. So, we are on Sunday Footy Feast this Sunday, Channel 7 main channel, with our close friend, Jason Richardson. Who was on the show? Campbell Brown. Who else is on the show?
Kate McCarthy.
That's right. Yeah. So, if you've got some grainy footage from you in the backyard, you in pre-season, you've walked past the game on a Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon, Any day of the week. Maybe it's sitting dormant in your camera roll. Maybe it's in the depths of your group chat from 3 years ago. Maybe you think that something has happened that needs to be shared from your local amateur league in any sport. Send it over to us and we'll dissect it on Channel 7 this Sunday during 7 Sunday Footy Feast.
As part of the AFL Media Industrial Complex.
I can tell why people think we're joking because we are talking like we're being sarcastic.
The only way to defend the joke is to live the joke. Now, people might think that we're joking because for some reason 7 haven't chosen to feature us publicly or promote our appearance on this show.
Ever.
I don't know.
Cricket or otherwise.
I learnt this morning they held rehearsals last week. No start for the boys.
Did they actually?
Yeah.
Did they?
The boys can come in. Look, we are doing one segment to begin with.
Flick him a shirt. Come in an hour before.
Exactly. I don't know what. I mean, they made a big song and dance about everyone they'd poached. Caro Wilson, Kane Corns. I'm serious. What about TGC / the Circus, Pez and Higgos, whatever you want to call us?
That's right.
What do you call them? We will be there Sunday Footy Feast between 12 and 2:30, heading into the main game on 7. We do have a message from Boys Actually, first Boys Actually, and Anon about joining the Footy Media Industrial Complex. Okay, so this is some advice to us, I believe. What you need to, so this is Anon. Boys Actually, what you need to understand about footy media as you're now wandering timidly into this fray is that if you want to make even a blip on the radar, you need far larger, noisier, angrier, dumber, more baseless, knee-jerky, easily refutable, and crucially, polarising, quote, opinions.
Yes, good.
Okay, this is advice for us.
Good.
You need to be dying passionately on hills every week. The more innocuous, the better. Bonus points if the hills are entirely imagined. Hype your listeners into a riotous mob frenzy before backflipping so fast it hospitalises them with third-degree whiplash.
Good.
Declare war on nuance. Quote, benefit of the doubt is for beta cucks. Debase yourself with very public and grubby personal controversies so the glaring cognitive dissonance of your loud and inevitable hypocrisy is rich and pure. It's in its infuriating glory as you rail against those guilty of the same levels of depravity.
Okay,
all right?
good.
I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, just urging you to have the courage to dive in and do what you know needs to be done.
Yes, good.
So as Shakespeare famously wrote...
Yeah, what did he say?
Let us swear that you are worth your breeding, which I doubt not, for there is none of you so mean and base that hath not noble lustre in your eyes. I see you stand like greyhounds in the slips, straining upon the start. The game's afoot. Follow your spirit and upon this charge cry, God for footy, Australia and the circus. Godspeed, Coates. So that's some advice for us.
That's good.
Heading into, and I think that's actually in the template and the blueprint that 7 provides us, and SEN, and 9, and everybody else who covers footy.
What I'm interested in is some people think that the game and the athletes themselves are the story, and they're the things that people get behind. No, incorrect.
That's a very, very outdated idea.
If you are in the media, people would think, well, you're there to entertain. Maybe some, supply some ancillary content around the stars themselves. No. We are the stars.
Yeah.
We are the stars of the sport.
The Media Industrial Complex feeds itself and others by talking about the media.
That's exactly right. People are interested in that.
Yes.
People like that.
And the only way to get meta with the joke is to join it and be part of it.
Media navel gazing.
Exactly.
Now we're talking. Okay? Now
we're going to sit at the desk of Sunday Footy Feature with our segment Amateur Hour.
Yeah.
And we're going to laugh at amateurs doing stuff better than we could do it. But we're going to be surrounded by the industrial complex.
I was quite
by myself. So what he's done wrong here is this.
That's right. Anyway, if you've got some clip in your camera roll, send it over to us.
Get us in. Yeah.
You can send it over at boysactually@gmail.com.
Or of your mates.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can send it in via our social media channels. And please do follow us on The Circus. It's The Circus Pod on Instagram. Let's start with the NRL, Pezza, because more games happened. They had a full round. So obviously people were upset that Cyclone Alfred turned into ex-Cyclone Alfred and wasn't as disastrous for some as was first expected. So and that gave rise for people to say, see, if it wasn't as bad as what they were saying, what else are they lying about? Global warming, is it real? That's something to think about. You know, what else are they wrong about?
Are you suggesting that the media was kind of salivating with multiple people stationed at places to report from, segmented by little dividers on screen, just waiting to froth on the
bit of disaster reporting.
Chaos and disaster? Yeah,
and it turns out it wasn't that bad for some.
Pretty bad.
It was pretty bad for others.
Yeah,
really bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, Pezza, great crowds at Brookvale was sold out on the weekend. Jubilee in Campbelltown, 23,000 Amy Park for store meals. which was, the Storm flogged the Eels. And so no team has ever won the comp after conceding 50 in the regular season, Pezza. So that means that the Roosters and the Eels can't win the comp. They're out.
I've seen enough.
Yeah.
I've seen enough in both codes, actually.
Yes.
There were a couple of winners who played well, and so we've got our grand finalists sorted, as far as I can tell.
And the games are starting earlier and earlier. They're starting so close to Christmas that my tree's still at my house, which is an issue separately.
That's a psychological issue, I think, by March.
That is. But if you lose heavily in the first week, line through you.
Yeah,
Get
absolutely.
out of here. See you later.
And if you win well, it's going to take a lot for other teams to beat you.
I need to think about how I actually saw this season panning out because round one has happened. In some instances, opening round.
Well, in the AFL, we have our grand finalists, don't we?
GWS.
Hawthorn and GWS played so well; they're in.
Look, it wouldn't surprise me if that was a grand final.
Exactly,
it wouldn't surprise me.
Looking at what we saw, but
Anyway, it was nice. I really like when in rugby league when the games are played in the actual home places of where the teams are located. You know,
it's a novel idea.
Yeah, I know. And then people sort of turn out, especially in these opening rounds, like Las Vegas, for instance.
I got a bit on Vegas in a second. Yeah.
But I sold out at Brookvale.
Brookvale looked good.
It looked good, and look, the Sea Eagles played well. The
Sea Eagles, yeah, and Cogger Oval looked good as well. Jubilee looked good, despite the Dragons going down.
Now, did you see this thing on TikTok where these Dragons fan bought a pie beforehand?
Yeah,
and then threw it at the Dogs fan, and it was fucking just hilarious. It was some of the wettest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was just a guy. It was just a Bulldogs, just a dad who was wearing his doggy shirt, and he was at the game, and he just had pie down his back. It was just completely unfunny.
Yeah, it's not the way things used to be. My mum took me to Brookvale Oval when I was 7 years old in '93, and for Manly versus North, and Bears had a good reserve grade team at the time, and knocked Manly over in twos. And I think I was giving it to the Seagull, who took my Bears flag and snapped it. That was
that man's name, John Hopper White.
That's back when times were hard, you know. We used to get off the train. Oh wait, there's no train.
There's no train there. Yeah.
We used to get off the bus, you know, with the Manly fans, and go toe to toe.
Someone snapped your flag.
Yeah, they actually.
How old were you? 7.
7. Yeah, they wrote to the club. The club replaced the flag with a new flag, actually, but I kind of like the old one.
Yeah, old stuff's way better.
Yeah,
it shows you loyalty for distance.
Manly won first grade, so it didn't really. It wasn't
they won first grade.
They did. But yeah, no, I just said the crowds look good. Suburban crowds look good, and just out of the games, I don't know what you liked, but Broncos look good. Madge's got them purring. Madge just sorted out the rock star culture of the Broncos. They don't train shirtless anymore. Things like that. He does things like that. He's getting the tune out of Payne Haas. Yes. Reece Walsh was good. Roosters looks set for a shit season, which is good.
What about like we spoke about before in one of the earlier episodes about how West Tigers always an exciting watch. Just to see what it is, see what happens. And look, they're playing against a night side, which no one's really tipped for finals necessarily, and they got beaten towards a 10-8 at home.
10-8, good. Good defence, good effort. They're missing Arpey. They're missing Jerome Buller. They'll be better than they were this year, like in previous years, sorry. But, it's like...
You're losing your first game against not a great side.
Oh, look, no team better than the Tigers for a gap between what's said pre-season and off-season and what is seen. But it will it will be better. They will be better. But, yeah, it was... Yeah, they played one half of footy.
Yeah, okay. Well, in that game, Dan Ginnane was on comms, and we actually got this moment here when the Knights scored against the Tigers. Charlie,
it comes away to Marju. Marju gets there. Marju gets there. Newcastle on the verge of fucking it up again, but Marju finds his way to the line, and finally the Knights.
Now, Dan, yeah, friend of the show, Dan. I've never spoken to him. I actually walked past down on Collins Street once. That's neither here nor there. I've never met him, but he's a friend. He jumped on Twitter and he tweeted, I full stop, did full stop, not full stop, say full stop, that full stop, word full stop. And he's got a gif of Bill Clinton saying, I did not have sexual relations.
Own it.
Yeah. With
exactly.
Monica Lewinsky. Now that to me, that's very much, the blue and white dress against the gold and white dress. Because I think that to me, all I'm hearing is he's saying fucking it up. But you heard it differently when you first heard it.
Yeah, like the way he leans into the word as well. Like normally, if somebody, I think if they swear on commentary, like say BT Triple M 2016, Dogs Swans.
Yeah.
They've got a dump button, or like it's kind of muffled. They're stopping themselves from saying it, but he actually roars out the word. He says mucking. The referee blows the whistle at the same time. But if you want to hear fucking, you can hear it.
Yeah.
What I'm here to say is I want him to say fucking.
100%.
I think a lot more people are tuning in. You know what I mean? I think our sensibilities around swear words are changing somewhat.
They're fading.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they're fading a little bit. And that is, in terms of, we talked about Shakespeare earlier.
Yeah.
In terms of like using language to communicate meaning.
Yeah.
Fucking is way more accurate than mucking in that situation.
Yeah.
For the feeling around what's going on.
Yes.
If you actually looked at that passage of play, Bradman Best nearly bombs a try 1,000 times before Marju saves it by scoring.
Yeah.
And so I'm all for him saying fucking it up.
Yeah.
But he doesn't say it. But I like he's leaning into it.
I agree with you. Like, I think if Dan Ginnane just fucking went off-piste,
Yeah.
then I'd be like all for it.
Because if they sacked him afterwards, I think that's when people would be like, no, Dan Ginnane is the voice of our times.
He's the voice of our
He'd
times.
actually get people marching down George Street
Finger
like
on
they
the
did
pulse.
for Super League. I think a lot of people would go into bat for him going, like, because they know the feeling of someone of somebody fucking it up like that.
That's right.
Newcastle on the verge of fucking it up. I think a lot of Knights fans would agree.
But yeah, they might have fucked up his contract situation with Dylan Brown. Anyway,
well, yeah, that's right. Not a lot of bunts knocking around.
but you know the instinct when there's like, let's say an intercept. Your instinct is not to go fuck. Your instinct is to go or like a big hit or something.
Yeah.
But like when your team like drops the ball over the line, then you'll say a more considered fuck.
Yeah.
You know. So
the sonic experience of sport, that's because
Exactly what I'm talking about.
You're opening up like a big realm there. I often think about how in football, soccer, football, the Anglophile expression of a goal is to say yeah. So the overall sound with 40,000+ people is
yeah.
Whereas like in your South Americas, your Latina areas, they say goal.
Yeah.
And so it sounds a little bit more scary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, people saying goal. This is the cutting edge of podcasting right now. So you'd actually have
Lucy
we'd have
Zelic
clips
was
of
right.
that. Zelic was right.
Yeah.
But yeah, he says mucking for me, but I wish he said fucking.
Dylan Brown signs the biggest NRL deal in history by all reports. 10-year deal, $13 million with the Knights after this season with the Eels. So, the Eels, 4 finals in a row, 2019, 2022. 2022, they lost to the Panthers right in the final. Mitchell Moses, and Dylan Brown, the halves combination. And then since then, just a little bit unders perhaps. But $13 million for 10 years. Now we're talking investment. What's going to be worth it? We're getting into like Buddy Franklin-esque conversations here. 9 years, $10 million. That was Buddy Franklin's deal, wasn't it? What's that going to be worth it to repay?
Beautiful. It's a beautiful talking point because it strikes at the heart of the changing ways you can talk about sport. This is the AFL's been doing this for a long time, by the way, because by any stretch of the logical pub test imagination, which is really where people reside in rugby league, and people don't resile from that.
Yeah.
But league is about pub test.
Yeah, it's pub test.
Giving somebody a 10-year contract is ridiculous, right? In pub test terms, anything can happen to your body at any time, right? And a 10-year investment is outrageous, and good on Dylan Brown for taking it. He's totally entitled to do it, and he does, right? But there's a new emerging way of talking in rugby league in particular where you preface everything with what you've got to understand is. What you've got to understand is, economically speaking, the salary cap may change to a point where actually it's actually quite a steal.
Be well under.
Mate, 1.3, he's not going to be worth much in 10 years, mate. When you think about it. So you talk like that, one.
Yeah.
Two, you could say, mate, even if he delivers a premiership or two, in a 7-year period and he crocs his knee, mate, that'll be well worth its weight in gold. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what you got to understand in terms of the way the salary cap. This is Wall Street and NASDAQ stuff from the Knights.
Okay.
Thirdly, you could do an X's and O. What you got to understand is around Kalen Ponga and Dylan Brown being able to play together. Like because a lot of the chat is like, well, I don't see Dylan Brown as a 7. He's not a game manager. He's a ball runner.
He's hardly played 7. He plays 6.
He's a deputy. He's an eyes up. He's eyes up footy.
Okay.
Right, Dylan Brown. But what you got to understand about the way the game's changing and the way Kalen's actually playing his footy at the moment is, so there's a lot of it's a wonderful win for league discourse. It's a wonderful win for your SEN style conversation.
Yes, guys in economics who understand contracts.
Pub test, shirt open, wearing your King G's. Stubby, like 1970s. I've grown my hair. I'm wearing stubby shorts in the pub.
You can't smoke inside here anymore, sir.
With thongs. There's another room for women. Chat versus bespectacled Mitch Cleary style X's and O's.
Right.
AFL reportage.
Yeah.
What you've got to understand is around what the way guys play together and the economics of the game, where you sort of roll your mouth over the words a little bit.
In 10 years' time, when they break down what his salary is per year, as they did with Franklin.
With Buddy. And what he actually returns to the city.
It's sort of 14, 15, he was actually under the
They're going to make that money back on merch in 10 years. Yeah. People who don't understand the P&Ls of the way rugby league teams work.
That's right.
Which is a not-for-profit, by the way.
Now, what Buddy had, just to use that comparison continuously, is that he was bringing memberships and fandom and growing the game.
That's right. And it's a marquee signing.
In this city, exactly. After winning 2 flags with the Hawks. Now, like, Dylan Brown's got to be fucking good if he brings rugby league to Newcastle, because I feel like it's already there. There's been some good players that have played there. They've won some stuff. The city's there. It's thriving.
Yeah. I like, people are talking about how Kalen and Dylan Brown work together. I just presumed that the Roosters have bought Kalen and they got money. I was like, oh, Kalen must be leaving.
He's off.
Yeah. So, I don't know. That's the code. I mean, there's a lot of things you can just answer with rugby league by saying that's just the code. You got to accept it.
I spoke to my mate Lenny just before, actually, because he's a Knights fan, and
does he like it?
He is excited by it, as you would be.
Novel,
because now you've got Best, Dylan Lucas, Ponga, and Brown.
Yeah.
But so that's exciting. But he's like, what about the fringe players that need to go? Like, what does it mean? So, like, you
don't worry about that.
You could be an exciting like left side.
Just get a couple of tough, hardworking local boys from Newcastle, from Cessnock, etc., from around the area.
Yeah.
Just put them in the back row and get them to do the grunt work.
Yeah.
And watch the big boys take flight.
Razzle dazzle stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I have actually seen this week. There's another Phil Gould tweet around how you do win a rugby league game, and it doesn't appear to be razzle dazzle around the back line.
His tweets are incredible.
Go forward, new line. Control the ball, new line. Kick, chase, tackle, new line. It wins a lot of games. Simple as that. Does Dylan Brown fit into that? That's really going to be the question.
Phil Gould is really good at breaking stuff down like that. Let's talk about the AFL.
I guess they're in the league. I don't think. Yeah, I mean. Sorry. One more thing. Sorry, Higgos.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw this spat over in Vegas. It's emerging reports around Roosters Supremo, Nick Politis, board member Mark Burris, and a referee of a Vegas Nines game. So we've got it's like a Roosters. It was a veterans game. I'm going to be vague on the details.
This at all.
Oh right, yeah. I'm going to like sort of paraphrase this, but it's a Vegas Nines game. There's a Roosters Alliance team. They're all veterans, and then there's a Broncos Alliance team, I think.
Okay.
And apparently the referee, puts in a performance where there's like several penalties, if not all penalties, to the opposition team.
Okay.
And according to reports, allegedly, Burris and Politis, the Roosters Supremo, and that's the only word.
Yes.
Walk up to the referee and say, I think Burris says, allegedly, hey, mate, that's the worst refereing performance I've ever seen in my life. And the referee's made a formal complaint.
Okay.
And Burris and Politis have explained themselves by saying, like, look, we didn't get in his face. We weren't confrontational. It's literally the worst refereeing performance I've ever seen. I went and told him that's it, right? And pretty powerful guys. Don't seem to be a lot of pushback or investigative journalism around it. What I wanted to pick up on, I know the Hello Sport boys did as well, was this is from the Daily Telegraph, just the headline, I was not impolitis. That's it. Roosters boss fires back at claims from volunteer referee. Tom at Hello Sport picked up on this, so shout out the boys. But
that's tremendous.
That's league.
That's tremendous.
I was not impolitis. Big picture of Politis with his Suprema, the arms folded, That's it.
Now, look, if you're following the timestamps here, welcome to the show. But this is exactly, we've started the show the last couple of weeks with NRL. That's because the season started beforehand.
That's right.
Now here with the AFL, maybe a few more stories. But when you get in that kind of headline compared to what's happening in the AFL,
different type of stuff.
It's just different type of gear. It's different type of gear. Now, a bit of a flat start to the AFL season, it felt like this week. Of course, what happened with the Cyclone, it was disappointing for Brisbane fans, especially Queensland fans of the code. But opening rounds, just generally speaking, it's obviously a direct rival that's like, okay, well, if the NRL are going to go to Vegas, we're going to go to your homelands. Yeah. I'm going to plant the flag there. Yeah. Bit of a washout, unfortunately. 2 games in Sydney. Hawks played really well against the Swans, and GWS pumped Collingwood in a pretty impressive display there. But the main talking points, Pez, are online anyway, is that the score bug, the score bug for Fox Footy is too big. People upset. I can't watch the fucking game. It's too big.
It is.
Sevens, though, clean, pure, centre screen.
And we would say that.
Well, of course we would, because we're
joined the footy revolution.
Because we're paid and bought for.
That's right.
Bought and paid for? You understand what I mean?
That's why it's only a 5-week trial. They want to see if we can speak properly.
So those are the most
points. There is a contrast, isn't there?
Yeah.
Aussie rules footy media coverage is like the score bug is wrong. Rugby league is did he say fucking?
And there's also some chat earlier about so in the Collingwood game they got thumped by GWS. So Craig McRae, he gets spoken to for giving the GWS bench a spray. So Bedford's running off the field. He's just given away a free kick.
Yep.
And then McRae, the Pies coach, clapped him. And then GWS sarcastic clap, gave him a bit of a spray, cupped his hands, yelled out something like this. Don't know what was said.
Yeah.
And then GWS coach Adam Kingsley, who obviously was, he used to work at the Pies together, gave it back to McRae, who then sat down pretty quickly. And then there's been a lot of discussions about, is this the right thing to do? Do you want to see that? James Hurd said, it's good for the game. Here we are talking about it. It's good for a bit of media. And Jared said, give Ken Hinkley his 20 grand back. Obviously after his spray, against Hawthorn last year. Was it the prelim or...
Well, that was one of them. So that was Ken Hinkley saying to Jack Ginnane, among other things, not flying so high now, are you, Jack? Absolutely from the top drawer.
Yeah. Classless from Hinkley.
Sicily not happy, etc.
Yes.
I think the difference between Craig McRae and Ken Hinkley is that Ken Hinkley had been pinged about 6 times before that as well, hadn't he?
And it was far more demonstrative.
Yeah.
It was fucking like, it was at quarter time and he got in his face and he was yelling shit.
Whereas Craig McRae is a kindly man.
Yeah.
He's striking, with an edge though. And that's the thing that we've picked up from this. Craig McRae has an edge.
Yeah.
But I do like, that's genius from Whateley. I noticed Whateley, by the way, he goes this week, last week I should say, was reflecting on some Code War stuff. Start of the year, always Code War stuff. Tedious, but he was talking about Vegas.
Okay.
Whateley. I just find Vegas a big event. I find myself drawn to it. I find our opening round divisive, the teams that are left out of it in Victoria. I watched the NRL and felt the sense of adventure and the sense of ambition serves their code really well. I think our AFL world holds an arrogance towards the NRL. We're missing a couple of things they're doing really well. Origin and their opening round are huge hits, and they had Magic Round long before we borrowed it and called it Gather Round.
Mm-hmm.
I find that extraordinary from a Victorian perspective. that's said, and that he's still got a job. There's a lot of things that happened on SEN the last couple of months.
Yeah,
and Whateley still having a job after saying that. I think he's high among them.
I found, just generally speaking, and also talking to footy fans here, that
as you do,
as I do
on the street,
I just go around the street. I do street talk, but there's no camera or microphone. I just follow people around. But the people were flat about opening rounds. Now, obviously, there should have been more games, bigger games this weekend as well. But, just the idea that... also, the ABC put out a thing where they're doing, content capture day with all the captains and the players before the season started. And they asked this question to all these players, is there a Victorian bias? And all the players were like, oh, nah. But, they're acknowledging there is. And, of course, there is. The game is for Victoria, broadly speaking. So, when you have an opening round...
I'm actually okay with that.
I'm okay with it as well. I'm saying it's good. And so, when you have an opening round, but none of the teams with the soul of the AFL and of course the VFL within it, it just feels fucking vacant. You know what I mean? It's the games this weekend were fine. The Friday game, Swans and Hawks, was a good game of footy, right? Especially the first quarter. It was a bit of a shootout. It was exciting. But it was it just felt a bit flat. There's once the game starts the game starts tomorrow night, Thursday, which is Carlton and Richmond, right? That's going to be exciting. It's going to be packed. The weather's been warm down here in Melbourne. It's actually been fucking hot down here in Melbourne the last few weeks, actually. That's gonna feel like the season has begun. And if we're gonna start these seasons in fucking January, I include the NRL as well. Like it has to have a certain zest and an oomph to it. You know what I mean? It just feels like we're fucking limping into the season when it should be fucking here we are.
Like I don't live in Sydney anymore, right? But like, I don't think to myself, oh, they're playing in Vegas. My membership is up for consideration now. Oh, the Swans have a game, do they? I'm signing up. Like I don't I'm going to turn that on because the NRL's abandoned me with a game in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
The whole thing's a fucking TV show.
Yeah.
I don't care where it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that they should start it with a bang with fans that love it most. And I think that, you know, any media product really should stay in its lane and do what it does best. By the way, like and follow the circus. The Circus Pod or whatever we're called on Instagram. Hawks kit. I respect that there's a historical thing going on, and please, you know, deliver a tidal wave of boys actually is on this if you are a Hawks fan.
Yes, please.
Who played exceptionally well. I liked how it looked. But the kit's just the kit is a symbol of the entire round. It's just flat. I could barely see the colours of it. Give me that. Give me those striking colours any day.
It's got to go in the bin.
Will Day's a good player.
He is good.
He's a good player. I agree. Well, he is this week. Will Day. I mean, I've seen enough. Hawks in the grand final.
Swan spoon with Collingwood.
Yeah, pencil them in. Hawks. I agree with Neil Mitchell. Why the Hawks wearing that jumper? No clash with Swans. AFL fans ripped to shreds. Major issue with Fox Footy's massive scoreboard graphic. Worst in history. Read a story on 7 News website. Footy fan, and then on news.com.au, a story with the headline: Footy fans react to unbelievable new AFL commentary lineup. Maybe we should put that on amateur, our first segment.
Yeah. Just the bug.
It might last 1 week.
Yeah, I always like new graphics are an important part of the season ahead, though.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because change is scary.
Yeah.
Now, if there's a bug which takes up half the fucking screen, I'm going to get vociferous about it.
I'm good for it. Because it occurs to me that the AFL is as much about the media around it
100%
as the game itself.
And
it's
the
talking
multimedia.
about the media. Yeah, that's right. Hey, look, just a quick one. He goes,
okay.
I believe this is the biggest story. I don't know if you heard this around Jake Lloyd's mate. So Jake Lloyd played his 250th for the Swans, losing side result.
Yeah.
There's actually a bush shearer who averted a potential disaster. I don't know if you heard about this, but you hear about the teenager who got in at Avalon Airport and put security gear on and came on with a shotgun?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Barry Clark, who hails from Moama on the banks, this is from Fox Sports, from banks of the Murray River, he tackled the 17-year-old after noticing the attacker was armed with a shotgun on Thursday afternoon. So he was travelling to Sydney to watch Jake Lloyd. He's great mates with Jake Lloyd's dad.
Yes.
Yes, I saw this, and he was made a few comments after his action. Said Jake Lloyd, he's number 44, he's from Horsham, courageous young man. It's his 250th game. He's a lovely young fella. So Clark, who was seated in 1C, Jetstar, but still 1C.
Must be nice. Okay. Someone's doing well.
I don't know why that. Anyway, he was in 1C. They didn't have to say like front row or something. Like, he was in 1C.
I'll tell you what, if he was in 1A, that does change things.
I always think Albo should be allowed. I mean, he's a Prime Minister. He should be allowed to ride in 1A for me. Doesn't matter who it is, but that's...
He can fly the cunt for all I care.
He noticed the Jetstar air hostess questioning the teenager. And he just said, you don't think you act. He goes, look, I'll just put in the box seat, I suppose. Lovely air hostess was questioning this bloke who'd come in on as a worker. He got agitated before we knew it. There was a shotgun that appeared and I was worried about her being shot. All I could do was push her out of the way, get the gun out of the way, break that, throw it down the stairs or try to, then put him in a hold and throw him down to the ground until the police came. Don't know what his full intention was, but it looked like he was trying to get in the cockpit. Police said it did the right thing. What else can you do when you notice something's going on a plane? You can't let someone start shooting and whatever on a plane. You don't think for yourself. You put your life out of it, do the right thing for people on the plane. Fuck. That is fucking alpha.
Yeah. Bloke in 1B called out ball as well.
What about seeing a guy... What about seeing a guy get on a plane with a shotgun? So, all right, I better break that, throw it off the plane, fucking put it in my hold. Play on. Got to go see Lloydie.
Coffee, 2 sugars, thanks.
That is a genuine story of never buy a beer again.
I wouldn't be doing that. I see a bloke.
I just like the guy apparently, and I think he went on to say like he was dressed pretty well too. He really did look like a technician. No, he was dressed as we're laughing now, obviously. Just someone with the shotguns, I better break that, throw him down.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
How does it make it that far? You know, like all the security you go through. It's fucking scary.
He went through a hole in their fence.
Oh, okay. Yeah, of course he did.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Yeah. Anyway, it's good result.
Fucking hell. Amazing.
One B called Paul.
He's gone.
God.
All right, Rugby Union.
Well, people have been calling for it.
Yeah.
About 3 people.
Well, let's talk about the FRU, Pezza. That's the Fiji Rugby Union.
Okay.
They sacked former women's captain, I'm going to get this wrong, I'm going to do my best, Lajipa Naluvu, 4 days into her job as director of rugby after she said the women's game had a gay problem. Noa Levu, the first captain of Fiji's national women's team, told the Fiji Sun newspaper this week that she was against gay women in rugby and said they should be excluded if the team was affected by them. The Popa quoted her saying this: "Those who played with me know that I do not condone being gay for women in rugby. I always speak against it, and I know I'm very unpopular in that area with those who practice it." Now, those views are obviously ridiculous, but 4 days into a job, better do some press. Gays, no good. See you later. What the fuck are you doing? Who elected her? How do you get into a job of power when that's a known position?
Well, it's like you're there 4 days and you do a little
first bit of press.
You go and meet your stakeholders and stuff. You have a chat. All right, we got a gay problem here. Better go tell the press.
Now, who's a reliable source? The Sun.
I'm a person of judgment.
Fucking hell. Let's talk about cricket.
No, well, hang on. Tahs have won 2 on the trot, mate. I, for one, am back.
Running rugby.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Tahs 2 on the trot. A couple of the other...
The Drua did okay as well, didn't they? They won on the weekend.
I think all the Aussie teams have not suffered the wrath of their opponents, particularly New Zealand, yet. We've won a couple of games against Kiwi teams. A couple of ways. It's looking okay.
Yes.
It's not humiliating. We're not on the precipice, but so we are getting a couple of messages from people saying, "Are we back?"
Well, what is interesting, because the Six Nations are on at the moment, and it looks like it's going to come down to the wire. But obviously, they're all playing for, or the English and Irish players are all playing for a spot on the tour out to Australia this year. 3 tests, 1 in Melbourne, 1 in Brisbane, and 1 in Sydney. Brian Henderson, National 9 News.
This is Brian Henderson.
One of the best, the GOAT. Anyway, so, it's an exciting time for rugby fans. I don't think the British and Irish Lions are going to be as strong as what they were last time they were here. Well, the Wallabies a little bit better. The Wallabies playing 16 tests this year, I think it is, 16 tests. So it's an exciting year for rugby fans. Now, Waratahs 2 from 2, I'm having a look. Now, they haven't done anything yet.
How much more winning do they need to do before you genuinely have a look? And by that I mean turn on Fox Sports News via KO, which still exists, and hang out for a 30-second snippet. They've got to be by Patrick Stack.
The Wallabies have got to be 2-0 up in the Lions series.
Shout out, Stacky.
But no, I guess what I'm saying is... Okay,
are you having a look at a Bledisloe for 10 minutes to see if the Wallabies are still in it?
100%. Yeah. But what I'm saying is it's the hope that kills you, because it's like this big year, a Lions year, obviously, this year, all these test matches for the Wallabies. So, it's all before us. And the Wallabies actually played half decently the second half of last year. So there's something there. Now, nothing's happened just yet, except they haven't lost a game in the first couple.
Shout out the people who've stuck with rugby, okay? It says a bit about you.
Fucking oath, yeah.
It says a bit about you.
Time to move out of home.
No, but we've needed you. My call is that the example of the Wallabies just goes to show that all the armchair bullshit administrative stuff that everybody talks about is exactly that. If your team wins, the code's going well.
Yeah, we're
and
back.
It hasn't won against New Zealand for 20-odd years, and that's why it's dying, okay? Yeah. Now, here's the other call I'm going to make.
Here we go.
If the Wallabies do manage to win a Bledisloe against New Zealand, my fandom will be like riding a fucking bike. I am back. That's it. It makes me fickle, and I will be joined by about 90% of Australians, including you. That North Shore DNA, it's still there. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be there with the fucking scarves. We'll wear Kubras with the corks coming off.
Yeah.
John Williamson, if he's still alive, will be back. Waltzing Matilda, let's fucking go.
I'll do this show in my school blazer.
You know what I mean? I will wear RM Williams with shorts.
Fuck me.
Yeah, it'll be too cold in here for that. But Anyway. But yeah, Waratahs have won 2 games, starting to have a look. Something's twinkling in the old.
I'm feeling something.
Yeah, but not yet. Not yet. Who's Suoliti playing shoot shield for? That's what I want to know. I'm hearing the PN. I'd like to see it, but I also expect him to land at Randwick or Sydney Uni.
Yeah, probably blue blood.
Exactly.
Stuff. Yeah.
Their coin. Will his kids get scholarships?
Right. Okay.
There we go. That's Union.
Okay. Now the cricket. India won the Champions Trophy. What a tournament. Memories for everyone. I couldn't think of a more depressing tournament, Pez, if I'm honest. Pakistan, they played 1 game in Pakistan. They had 1 washout. The other game was against India in Dubai. The final was not held in Pakistan because India made the final. They had to play that game in Dubai. India obviously protesting that they're getting no advantage. People standing up for their team saying like, well, what are you talking about? What about in the 2009 the 2009 Champions Trophy in South Africa didn't travel anywhere.
And your face looked like Heath Ledger in the Joker there. And you sounded like John Howard. Go on.
So, depressing all round, depressing online, sad for Pakistan, completely hollow victory in every sense, unless you're India, who don't see it that way, and that's all that really matters because India don't need the rest of the world. They just need to play against some tournaments to make them feel good about themselves for their nationalistic purposes.
All right. So let's just clarify here, Charlie. Are we going to put any reference to India in the title of this on YouTube and in the thumbnail? Because depending on that, I'll say what I think.
There's probably a meeting about it.
Yeah, good point.
Be good for clicks.
Yeah. What kind of clicks, though?
Global cricket is an extension of the Indian government's nationalist aims. When you understand that, the entire world cricket makes sense. Mm-hmm. The end game of cricket will be 10 months a year of IPL with a little bit of international cricket around.
People think that you're joking, but you're not.
There's a difference between the people shouldn't confuse those that run the game of cricket in India and those who love cricket in India. They are not the same body or entity.
Yeah.
So when you criticise the administration of the game, given that it put the BCCI and the ICC put their thumb on the scales to tilt it India's way, they don't rig it for India. India still has to win these games.
India are probably the best team in the world.
What it actually does is insults the Indian cricket team and the people who love the game there. That's what I think, because this Indian one-day side is the best side in the world, is the most dominant, and has done it for the most amount of time. 23 games out of 24 in ICC tournaments. Okay, lost the big one.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about that. They have taken the game further than any other team has. They're about a one-day side than where England had the game back in 2019.
Yep.
However, the administrative advantages they are proffered through their own administration then somewhat lends somewhat of a shadow to their own achievements. And a lot of people have been making this point. India wins this tournament if they're on the same even playing field as everybody else. They still do win the tournament, in my view. But the fact they don't, will cause people to question the integrity of it, right? That's just a natural thing. Indian fans who can't see that, that's fine. Our judgment's clouded with heaps of stuff. We're all biased in heaps of ways. But yeah, I don't know. I really also think the added dark thing I will say to that is that I don't think India cares very much. I think we overestimate the extent to which we think international cricket has a role to play in India's vision for the game. I think India, the BCCI, via the ICC, could run an IPL 10 months a year, do a couple of international windows where India destroys everybody, given the game's been hollowed out everywhere else, and everyone in India, which makes $9 out of $10 in cricket, will be happy. I don't think India needs anybody else. You can tell by the reaction, over there to people's criticism. There doesn't appear to be any critique. There will be pockets, obviously, but there doesn't appear to be any kind of substantial critique in India of the nature of this victory. It's just like it's glory to India, play on, fuck off everybody else. Maybe that's reasonable given, macro history.
I was upset that
Jada's a good bowler.
Given Australia sent over a much weakened squad. Stornes was selected and then it retired in it. Obviously, Steve Smith is now retired from ODIs. He captained the side and he played quite well. There was no Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood, etc. But what frustrates me is that, like, why is it always up to Australia to defeat the enemy?
Yeah, fuck, any danger?
Can anyone else fucking pull some weight, you know? Once Australia make they breathe through a semi-final by playing half a game in this tournament. By the way, the tournament exists so India and Pakistan can play each other this year because they don't play each other bilaterally. And so in a non-World Cup year, what should we do? How do we get these two teams to play against each other? I know, Champions Trophy. What the fuck is that? We haven't played in 8 years. Anyway, but then, you know, when Australia make it to a semi, it's like, okay, we'll turn up and we'll do our best, but it's not our strongest side, and they get knocked out. It's like, can anyone else fucking do something?
New Zealand got rid of him in 2019. Donny run out.
True.
Trying to take it deep.
Yeah.
Guphead.
Yeah. I still think he gets death threats to this day when that day comes up. Always really...
Hell of a celebration at Lords, though, apparently.
Yeah. Now, the IPL starts in 2 weeks, Pezza. Now, this is via the BBC. The Prime Minister of Vanuatu has ordered the cancellation of a passport issued by the island nation to fugitive Indian businessman Lalit Modi, who was wanted by Delhi in a corruption case. The order came 3 days after India confirmed that Mr. Modi had got citizenship of Vanuatu, a string of more than 80 islands in the Pacific Ocean. Mr. Modi, the former chief of the Indian Premier League, the IPL, is wanted for allegedly rigging bids during his tenure as the head of the world's richest cricket tournament. Mr. Modi, who has been living in the UK since 2010, has always denied the allegations. In 2013, the Board of Control for Cricket in India, that's a BCCI, banned Mr. Modi from any involvement in cricket activities for life. Anyway, so he's head off to Vanuatu. No good. Anyway, future of the game's all in good hands. Now, what about the Australian, this 150th Test anniversary, Pez? A bit of good news. March 2027, eh?
It is a good opportunity for people to learn the word sesquicentenary. Sesquicentenary. I'm still learning it.
That's French.
Yeah. Sesquicentenary.
Sesquicentenary. Roll off the tongue.
Yeah, March 2027. The big question is, you know, will the AFL be okay with using the MCG?
Well, because we're talking about the Sheffield Shield final, Pezza. Yeah. You know, are the Crows going to let South Australia host?
I hear there's goodwill.
There's goodwill. There's goodwill.
Yeah. And there's a lot of clever stuff they can do with dropping pitches now.
I think it's time South Australia won.
I think they're going to change the date of the Shield final to give the Crows a couple of days.
Well, fair enough.
I agree.
Fair enough.
I agree. But Australia England 150th anniversary of the first Ashes Test, where it was a bit going on. Now in the first one, Australia wins by 45 runs, and then the 100th in the Centenary Test, 1977, Australia wins by 45 runs. So there's for people of a certain disposition. Of us, there can only be one result in that game.
That's right.
And there's a low probability of that, but we will be crossing our fingers.
Let's talk about football, Pezza. Now, the Matildas are...
Day nighter, did you say that?
It's day nighter. Did say that. And also, there must be like 2 months before the next Ashes in the UK. That'll be 2027.
And that was Warnie's wish. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
It was an anniversary of his death last week. But and that was Warnie's wish. He wanted a day-night test. He wanted a pink ball test. He knew that it was the future, and it's because Warnie always knew what was up ahead. And to be fair, he wanted that when the MCG deck was the most fucking the worst thing you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
So I think he just knew that it needed a pink ball to get something doing off the deck. Now it does heaps.
Yeah. Too much.
So I'm not really sure if a day night is going to work. That is going to be game. Well, yeah, 2-day game with Bazball.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Will Bazball be around? I guess we'll see this summer.
The Matildas are ranked 16th in the world, Pezza. That's their lowest ranking in 20 years. In the She Believes Cup, they lost 4-0 to Japan, 2-1 to the US, 2-1 to Colombia. They're obviously still seeking a new full-time coach to replace Tony Gustafsson, who departed after the Paris Olympics failure. So, you know, ever since, they fucking touched God, just about by finishing 4th in the World Cup here. But, they gave the nation so much. And since then, fucking hell. It's getting to any danger category, isn't it? I mean, look, Colombia, US and Japan aren't bad sides. In fact, they're all ranked ahead of Australia. But lowest ranking in 20 years and 16th in the world. Is it right to demand better?
Well, I think it's important to... we could introduce Charlie here. Charlie's a football man.
Yes.
Right? And a big ally.
Yes, he's
as
an
well.
ally. Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if the heights of the World Cup have probably been difficult to manage post, because Australia wrapped their arms around the Matildas, figuratively speaking, during that tournament. You know, like that was Australia's team, and it'd be hard to reach there again, I'd imagine, just to go back to the grind of whatever tournaments they're doing after that.
You're going to have to win an Asia Cup.
Yeah.
That'd be the next thing we're going to get here.
And I tell you what, the women's team loved it. The Australian cricket women's team, that is, absolutely loved it.
They really enjoyed the celebration of a team finishing fourth.
Yeah, the suggestion of statues and everything.
They really got behind that.
CB, I mean, at no notice, mate, why have the Matildas declined so rapidly post the World Cup?
And keep it short, mate.
Yeah. I don't really know, to be honest.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I think they probably overachieved in the World Cup for...
Interesting. Regression to the mean.
Maybe, I think they're still below the mean, but...
Yeah.
But they've got good players, Chuck. They've got players that play at Arsenal and Chelsea and Real Madrid, and I mean these are big clubs. These are serious clubs. Like, I mean, is 16th in the world acceptable? I mean, shouldn't we have a fucking coach? Shouldn't the Matildas have a coach?
Yeah.
Would 16th be the highest our men have ever been ranked?
By double?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A permanent coach would be a good start.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Okay. Yeah. Well, fair enough.
But yeah, I think with the the level of investment from the government, it's probably
government investments.
Yeah. So should you have raised this with Albo when he was here 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. Well, I had other issues to raise.
You were busy shaking his hand after you just emerged from the toilet. How do you feel about being asked the question at no notice here?
Yeah.
Not the question I was expecting. But yeah.
Charlie goes bang on government investment.
No,
into
I like
Matildas.
it. No, fuck, that's good.
He goes whack.
Let's talk about the Sidemen charity match, Pezza, because this is fucking amazing. So, like, the Sidemen are... Okay, they played a match at Wembley. They raised £4 million for charity. They sold out Wembley, and that's 90,000 tickets in 3 hours. So the Sidemen are a 7-strong group that includes content creators, musicians, and a boxer, KSI. They got more than 146 million YouTube subscribers between them. That's over 8 million people tuned in from around the world to watch the live stream. 8 million people watched it. That's according to a statement from the organisers. Their YouTube channels combined have over 6 billion views. But that is just, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the footage, like, I show Speed's there. KSI's there, all these other guys. Like, it is fucking amazing that 90,000 people would want to go and watch that and sold out in 3 hours, and 8 million people watched it online. Have you seen footage of the game?
No. I was like, I mean, just look like at the the ends justify the means on £4 million for charity.
Exactly right. Yep.
But I do like the angle of, like, I just can't believe that many people.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. It's, you know, I guess we're like our knickers are in a twist on this one, because you know it is true that, like, any it's almost like any single initiative you want to take part in, the language that moves the dial is how many YouTube subscribers or social followers you have, right? So and that's being used for good. So I wouldn't say I'm particularly across many of those content creators. I'm across some of them. Yeah. And not for me, but play on for I'm not going to think shame.
I think it's more that. But at the same time, we are trying to sell tickets to the Apollo for our show. And so it's like, who the fuck are we?
Yeah. Well, we don't bark like dogs on our show.
No, not usually.
Not usually, but again,
it's happened.
Yeah. Everyone likes different types of art.
That's right.
I went to the Kasama gallery showing at the NGV over the weekend. And she had a collection that was titled Infinity Nets, and I just couldn't deal with it. That was ruined for me. It was Infinity Nets and Infinity Nets 2. I'm like, fuck. That is horrifying to me.
What about the shit net?
Yeah, exactly. There was one with brackets 3. It's like, third net. But everyone likes art in different ways. You know,
just amazing. And also, Speed had a nice assist. So there was that. There was good footage there. Pez, have you seen Manchester United's new stadium design? That was announced overnight.
Yeah.
So it had a little bit of a Saudi theme to it, or a circus tent. They looked a bit Saudi.
Oh, Charlie's turned the mic up again.
Charlie, he's got something to say.
Yeah. Obviously, well, not obviously, but when I was in year 4, there was two, like in '94, there's two teams you could support: United, Liverpool. Chose United. My year 4 teacher supporter United. That's it. Don't change teams. Yeah, so the reaction seems to be that it looks like a circus, like it's a big top, which would be appropriate given the state of the club.
Yes.
It has a sort of the pointy Middle Eastern style architecture to it. It also looks like a mosquito net to me over the top.
Yeah.
So that's just, I mean, was United ever going to release a blueprint of a stadium that was going to be universally lauded?
Looks about right to me.
It's like, they're very impressive actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I mean, just add it to the list of every single utterance coming out of the club looking like a dystopian neo-capitalist entity in terminal decline.
Right. So this stadium,
and you should see the food they're serving the staff.
Plates of air. So this new stadium is going to be 100,000 seater compared to what's it now, 80?
Yeah, so sure. High 70s.
But like the state of the stadium's been well documented for a little while, like leaks in the roof and that kind of stuff. A metaphor, perhaps.
The state of it.
The state of it. Yeah. Now, Sir Jim Ratcliffe also did an interview with Gary Neville a couple of days ago for the Overlap. I watched it last night, and it was kind of a mixture of bizarre, a bit dystopian itself, like Gary Neville asking quite hard hitting questions, like serious questions. He did a good job. And then Jim Ratcliffe also gave some rational answers, but the whole thing was quite unusual. Jim Ratcliffe is a minority stake owner in Manchester United, and some of the answers were reasonable. Some of them were a little bit harder to understand, I suppose, but the whole thing was just weird. It's like, I don't understand why he's doing this. I think for a lot of people, they're like, I'm glad he's doing this. I'm glad he's speaking out, but I also wonder why you would do that. Like, you just put yourself in a weird position. Now, they've also recently, taken away $40,000 per year for past players. The staff aren't getting free lunches anymore, and they're also just announcing they're going to spend $3 trillion in new stadium. Well, I presume it's going to be $1 billion stadium, whatever it's going to cost. So the whole thing's a bit odd. But in this interview that Sir Jim Ratcliffe did, he said that had they not made these changes, that United would have run out of cash by November, which is just fucking extraordinary for. If not,
I think it was if it wasn't for his investment, but it's been that's been twisted, obviously. But yeah,
right. So but it's still an extraordinary position to be in for one of, if not the richest club in the world. To be in the top three, be Madrid, United, and City.
Oh yeah, big club. Oh yeah, big club.
Yeah.
People love that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
as a United fan,
I wonder in time whether they're going to, the club is going to prove an incredible case study into, like a dystopian capitalist decline of an entity. I mean, this is a club who, since Alex Ferguson's retirement, have conjured essentially a decline year on year. There's been a couple of second place finishes and stuff. There's never been a title run. And this is in a context of big European teams can go through their dips, but generally come back. But this club gets worse and worse, despite its apparent resources and all of the money that comes in and out of it. It does have a vampiric ownership model through the Glazers. But despite all the money that comes in and out of it, the access to players, the amount it can pay for players, the resources at its disposal, it has not been able to confect one good season since the legend Ferguson retired. And it's all emblematic of a decline upon decline, and there doesn't seem to be any abating of it. It can go through the best managers in the world, it can go through continental managers, it can go through domestic managers, it can go through legend managers, old managers, young managers, not one, internally hired managers with Solskjaer, club legends, etc. Tactically astute, heart, everything. Best players, not one of them have been able to arrest its slide, which suggests macro issues far outstripping anything that one kind of messiah could bring. So that's just got to be great for its rivals to watch. It must be great. So
speaking from across the motorway, as a Liverpool fan as I am, I live in Melbourne.
That's right.
And I'm from Sydney.
That's right. I grew up in French's Forest. Yeah. I'm from Salford.
people laughed at Liverpool for not winning a league for 30 years, right? And rightfully so.
Yeah.
As one of the most successful clubs in the world. But it is amazing how quickly, like the length of your last league title happens. You know, because for instance, Arsenal they're at 21 years now with that since their last league. What is it for United? 12 years now.
Yeah.
And like
United went 40 years at one point.
Right.
Before. So people forget that history as well. I mean, it has a history before then. Like they spent a lot of time being shit, Man United, but then it's just interspersed with these periods of incredible glory that kind of builds its reputation.
Right. So, but it's amazing, like how, like what needs to happen. So with Liverpool, for instance, they got this manager that sort of connected with like the club and the city and whatever, and was such a huge personality that he able to like drag this club along with him and got to compete against one of the the state-based clubs in Manchester City and win some Champions Leagues and a league title and probably the league this year as well, obviously under a new manager. But what it takes to like arrest that slide that Liverpool had for years, because Liverpool, when I first started supporting, they were like, they always did well in Europe, but they were fucking like sort of between 4th and 8th for so many years, and then like just dragged to something amazing, a period of success anyway. But it's so funny like how quickly you go from being like just one of the best clubs in the world to like not winning anything for 15 years, not winning like the thing that you aspire to for a couple of decades. Like Arsenal, for instance, who would have predicted that when Arsene Wenger left that they wouldn't win a league again?
But at least those clubs still remained there and thereabouts. They never dropped too far as to not be kind of starting a season with hope. Whereas United is like looking closer to the bottom than the top. Like it's a slide that I think it's demonstrative now, given that it's year on year for like 12 years, that there's something more macro and structural around it, rather than like a couple of down years because they don't have the right type of people. Those other clubs like Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal and stuff have fixed it and still played good football and been in contention just about, maybe 1 or 2 bad years, but it doesn't last long. Whereas United is like, they are getting worse and worse. It's there was a year when Solskjaer made it to the stadium looks good.
Europa League final,
and there's good social following.
Who did United lose the final to? Was it Valencia?
When
Solskjaer was manager, they made the Europa League final.
Oh yeah, I think that was Valencia. Yeah.
That one hurts because that's like a big trophy, right? And if he gets that, maybe
United shouldn't be talking about Europa League. I mean,
no, that's true.
They just shouldn't be. That's
true.
But now it's like, it'd be amazing.
That would have been good.
Yeah. That's where the standards are at.
Liverpool got knocked out of the Champions League this week.
I can't wait for that European Super League to come along. And Saudi ownership.
That's
right. Give me that Saudi money.
Spurs are there.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of Aussie cricketers who are United fans as well. I sort of want to get a couple of them on to talk about their footy team and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, when you and Pekovsky chat, it's just United, isn't it?
That's all it is.
Yeah, Liverpool knocked out in pens this morning by PSG. PSG are fucking amazing. Best team I've seen Liverpool play this year by far.
Which is that slight consolation for you as well? So just to lift the hood, I came in early this morning. I've been camping with my family for a few days. Need to catch up on some stuff. Higgos already in 6 a.m. Alarm's gone off. As in to say someone's in the studio.
Yeah.
You're watching Liverpool PSG, edge your seat,
Second
leaning forward. And secondly, you did the same thing last week as well.
That's right. That's right. And, very watchable times to kick off at 7 a.m. Very watchable.
It's the best. Yeah, that's right.
Clocks must have gone. Have they gone forward in the UK?
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway,
Liverpool exit.
Yeah, Liverpool exit. PSG best team over the 2 legs, no question. I saw a stat like XG is just such a big thing in football. Like I'm always skeptical about stats in a game with like fluidity like football, but XG does appear to be everywhere. XG for these 2 legs, PSG was like nearly 6 and Liverpool was like 1.5. So suggesting that expected goals scored, PSG should have scored 6 and Liverpool should have scored 1.5 goals. That was the expected goals based on shot opportunity and chances created in the games. Anyway, the point being that PSG were fucking good. Consolation, I think PSG could win it. They're really good, but they'll have to face Madrid in the semi-final if they make it that far. Anyway, PSG good. Without their stars, without Mbappe, Neymar, Messi, Thiago Silva, they usually have like stars. PSG, not anymore.
Yeah.
All right, athletics. High school track runner gets attacked with a baton in the middle of a relay at the VSHL Class 3 State Indoor Championships. Kaylin Tucker was on the second leg of the 4x2 relay at Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia, I'm guessing. Is VA Virginia?
Yeah.
I think so. When she got smacked in the head Tucker suffered a concussion and a potential skull fracture. Now,
people need to see this, yeah.
Yeah, so people would have seen this, yeah. So, runner's coming around the straight, and there's a bit of a tangle, and she seems to clock the runner in front with a baton. Seems to. Sorry, does. Gets full contact. And then that. And
I wouldn't say it's a natural motion of someone trying. Like the claim from the runner is that she's off balance and trying to rebalance herself. That is no one's arm moves that way.
Yeah,
that happens.
And she had a very emotional statement. She was saying, that I've been getting threats online, and people have been saying that I'm ghetto, and like she's very teary and emotional about this. She said, I never intended to do this. My arm got tangled. I was like, but you can see that you've just hit her in the back of the head.
Mate, I mean, I've like heard my 4 and 6 year old claim the same things in fights with their brother. You know what I mean? I just got tangled. So I whacked him with a pod over his head.
Well, we're running in sync, and then the arms got tangled. Then I sort of lost balance, and then just assaulted her with a baton.
That's right. I decided to hit the crash symbol. Who among us hasn't been there?
Yeah, you know and that can happen.
That can happen.
That can happen.
I mean, that poor runner who copped it. Fuck me. It was a huge clock to the head.
Yeah.
She's concussed, right?
Potential skull fracture and suffered a concussion.
And she was bearing down on the first position. Well, right. So
exactly,
that's the other thing.
Now, there was, in classic American fashion, there was talk of some litigation happening, but no charges have been filed just yet, which is good news all around.
I don't think you should no one should be running in a relay race and just fucking get clocked in the back of their
cleaned
head.
up, yeah.
Seriously.
It's fucking outrageous. It's pretty outrageous.
It was outrageous. And then, the explanation afterwards.
Yeah.
I
didn't mean to.
Guess what else are you going to say? Yeah, no, I did. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I got her. Yeah. Hey, good news, Pez. The Formula 1 starts this weekend in Melbourne, down the road here. Supposed to be wet on Sunday, though, Pezza.
Oh, really?
Bit of rain.
Oh, well, that'll favour.
Yeah. Now, what we get to see online for the next few days is basically everyone who's anyone gets to go down to Glamour on the Grid.
Oh.
They get to walk around and show you. Now, this is what it's like if you had sort of $8,000 for a day of entertainment.
Okay.
Mate, it's so expensive to go to get tickets for the.
Yeah. Well, you're going to hear us in the Marlee interview coming up soon. I'll blow up about it, but I may as well just join it, start it off for you too. Any danger?
Any danger?
Everyone else seems to be Glamour on the Grid. Yeah. Any danger that number one sports pod in the 3rd week running.
Also, if you want parking,
yeah, we got a park here.
Yeah,
nearby.
Yeah. Oh, it's 100 meters from the track.
Yeah. At best. So anyway, yeah, everyone else, all the other influencers getting the lick. Any danger of the circus getting the lick?
Getting the touch.
DJC, anyone get a touch of the Glamour on the Grid? I don't know if I can make it, but.
There's a class action against Australian punters in American college football, Pezza.
Now, let's just define what you mean by punters here.
I'm talking about kickers.
Oh, right.
In gridiron.
Bet on sport.
Gridiron.
Gridiron. Yes, I love my
kickers
gridiron.
Kickers in gridiron. You watching the gridiron this weekend? Now, this is via the SMH. Australians now account for almost half of all punting positions at the 134 colleges included in the top division.
Fuck.
With most receiving full scholarships to study at some of the most prestigious universities in the US.
Holy hell, man.
So almost half of the kickers in college football are Aussies. Fucking how good are we going?
I guess what other sport does America have where kids would grow up kicking footballs unless they were a designated punter? There's not really much doing, is there? You're just clattering in, or you got a basketball.
So, however, the American organisation responsible for enforcing eligibility rules for student athletes has been accused of, quote, stifling opportunities for scholarships and roster positions for US punters.
America first, Trump.
According to a class action launched last month. The class action, which was launched by a disgruntled father of an aspiring American punter, claims the eligibility criteria breaches the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution and also contravenes antitrust and unfair trade practices laws.
Well, I think like all these punters would be of an Aussie rules background as well.
Well,
I
one of which is Eddie Maguire's son.
That's right, Xander. Have we confirmed that's Eddie Maguire's son?
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Joe, sorry. Xander's the reporter, pardon me. I I wouldn't be surprised if this was a nefarious AFL attempt to get into the American market as well.
Yeah, okay.
And why isn't the AFL pointing to this when Vegas has enjoyed this
That's
saloon
exactly what
passage?
we're talking about.
We know how much of this slice of the American market the NRL has taken from its second foray in there.
Yes, that's right.
The AFL can point to the fact that it is actually infiltrating from the inside.
Yeah.
You want football fans to enjoy rugby league. How about we just make them footballers?
That's right. Because what people in American football love the most is when teams have to kick. Now, think about this. Think about this now. A team full of kicking with Aussies, with our best kickers in a sport in America. Now the AFL is in the US.
Exactly.
Done.
Bang. Sorted out. It's called lateral thinking. Look it up.
Yeah. BT in Vegas. See you later.
Bang.
Bruce in Seattle. That's a sitcom he's working on.
Yeah, and that's America first stuff. Australia's going down.
Yeah.
And America's fighting the influx and the incursion of the AFL through its constitution and the 14th Amendment.
And now, if there are any tariffs involved in the AFL, that could be difficult to get past. But I also did see that Trump just did a press conference a few hours ago where he was buying a Tesla from Elon Musk on the White House lawn.
I was saying this is where Dutton could wedge Albanese as well. I mean, if this 14th Amendment is successful, if class action is successful through the 14th Amendment, and Albanese can't guarantee Australian punters a gig at college on full scholarships, then that's 1-0 Liberal Party for me. What's Albanese doing about this?
Yeah.
Fuck, if only we had a chance to chat.
Well, right now you're going to hear from Marlee Silva. A great chat with Marlee Silva. What a wonderful person to have in the studio. Anything you want to say about Marlee? Or should we just throw to her?
No, we'll all in the intro. Love the chat.
Here's Marlee.
All right, well, from time to time we have a polymath in the studio, someone who just wears 1,000 hats because they're very skilled at several things. And it's selfish of them, to be honest, but to insult us like that. But here with us in the studio, we have Channel 9 reporter and podcaster who covers rugby league, he's done the Australian Open, here for the F1, who's also a writer, author, consultant, a documentary maker, a former Triple J presenter, co-CEO of the Australian Indigenous Mentoring Experience, proud Gamilaroi and Dunghutti woman. From some pretty famous league lineage, Marlee Silva, our pleasure to have you on the circus.
Thank you so much. Yeah, look, I've done lots of things because I can't sit still. It's not because I'm particularly good at anything. What do they say? A master of none, jack of all trades, master of none is sort of me.
Yeah.
And I'm just really into the sound of my own voice.
Got it. I've got no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. So when you were a finalist for the UN Human Rights Medal, that was just a master of none thing as well?
Oh, God, yeah, that was a different life.
Yeah. That was enough than me.
Yeah, I didn't win it. Yeah, I was a finalist, so again, not a master.
The less said, the better.
It's barely even worth talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, sorry. Let's move on. Well,
the rugby league.
Well, look. Let's call it out because people are asking. You and I go way back, Marlee. The last time, we've actually made content together. I don't know if you remember this, but I do. When we both worked at AIM.
Yes.
And I interviewed you and Tanisha Stanton on the hill of Leichhardt Oval at the New South Wales Koori Knockouts in what must be one of the greatest pieces of content ever created. Lost
in the
through the annals of time,
yeah,
sadly.
Good.
But I don't know if you remember that because you have sort of your media star has risen greatly, but a couple of us are just working away here at the coalface.
I remember us huddling around the one microphone. Am I right?
Oh yeah, it would have been high production.
And I feel like we were kind of closely bunched together to be some sort of soundproofing wall. Koori
You
Knockout.
must stop the wind tunnel.
Yeah. The Koori Knockout is the largest congregation of Aboriginal people that happens on the calendar. A lot of people around, a lot of activity, and I think we just kind of came close together around the one USB mic. That's what I remember. Yes. I have no idea what we talked about.
Nor I. I remember seeing Stan Grant there though. He just has a presence about him, Stan. And he just got such a he's such a media face as well. I just remember maybe the light just bounced off him just so, but I remember seeing him and going, Stanley.
Okay,
he came to my house once.
Really?
Yeah.
Hello.
And the less said about the better. No. He came to do a piece on my sister had was doing the HSC. And so I can't remember why he was doing a like some piece for Channel 10 News with him. But anyway, he came to the house. Lovely man. I would have been 16.
Yeah.
He was a lovely man.
I
Real
only
presence about him.
properly met him last year at the Dally M's because he's around rugby league a lot, loves the game.
Yes.
And I have never had a proper conversation with him, just admired him from afar and went and introduced myself and he was like, oh yeah, I've been listening to your podcast. Like, really proud of what you're doing. And I like nearly cried.
Oh,
wow.
And it would have sounded so erudite as well coming out of Stan's mouth.
Yeah.
Baritone.
Yeah. Beautiful voice.
Yeah.
I also just remember there's a lot of really good rugby league players there as well. So, but we do go way back. You've so a lot of people have seen you around, particularly in like rugby league circles. You have a whole bunch of like media properties, and you are very prominent with Channel 9 now. But you've grown up with league like your whole life, right? So your dad Rod spends 12 years in the top grade. I reckon you're about 5 years old when he finishes up. And are you like, is the household very league centric, or like because I know, with some professional players, like once they've finished, they like close the door on that chapter and they don't want anything to do with it. It can burn you. But have you guys just been league lovers?
Yeah, like over 20 years after Dad's retirement, he's still trying to milk every last drop of the glory days.
Oh,
yeah. Why wouldn't you?
And
same.
Rocket Rod.
Yeah.
He retired in 2001, so I was in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And I remember, this is going to sound so ridiculous, the first time I went to Shark Park, Dad played for the Sydney Roosters and the Bulldogs, and we grew up in Cronulla. And so going to Shark Park is a very cultural thing for the Shire people to do. And I went with a kid I went to school with, and I couldn't believe that we weren't in like a box. Like we went and we're like standing on the hill and there's heaps of people around us, and I was like, Mum talks about this, like me coming home from the game and being like, oh yeah, we had heaps of fun. It was a bit weird though, like we weren't like, there wasn't like hot dogs just waiting on a little table for us. There weren't people around looking after us.
There was like catering.
There was lots of like men around, and we weren't like up high so we could see the field.
It wasn't halfway long.
So that was like the big culture shock for me.
Yeah.
But I always say, like, I had to be fluent in rugby league growing up in order to get a word in with my dad.
Yeah.
He's a man of few words until the rugby league is on. So anytime a game is on, you will find him blowing up about the referees. He has a favourite player in every team. He has strong opinions about everything to this day. So it's been really interesting to watch him grow respect for my perspective. So coming into it, right, there used to be times where I would say things or ask things, while the footy's on, you just get the shits. Am I allowed to swear?
No. Oh, no, we play pretty clean.
Yeah.
Please swear as much as possible.
No,
swear more.
Seriously, I'm surprised you haven't sworn yet, to be honest.
I'm not a big swearer, but I
very
just thought about that for a second. He'd get the shits with me if I said anything about footy. And then over the last 4 years that I've been doing it now, I found him asking me questions and stuff. Or being like, oh, do you reckon this or whatever?
You've got the respect from the old man.
That's better than any human rights award I've ever been, nominated for.
Well, that's everything.
So, that's everything.
Yeah. That's it.
I mean, there's a lot of like guys listening to this, and that's just a metric that we have about 98%. That full stop. But they'll be just going, well, that is the Shangri-La of life, really.
Yeah.
When your father respects your opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us just search and search. It rarely comes. But I just wanted to just calling out firstly, like the complete faux pas of mentioning your dad when it comes to rugby league. I mean, you've cut your own career in rugby league greatly and continue to do so. But I do have to ask, how many blokes about our age or older bore you by saying, oh, gee, your dad was a good player. And as a separate question and alternatively, he was a good player. I do.
And also, how good was he?
And how good was he?
Yeah.
Stinking off the right, the left,
That has been the key to many a door in rugby league media. Being able to say, you know what I mean?
So, like, you got the human rights medal finalist.
No.
Triple
Forget that
J.
stuff. Forget that stuff.
Rod.
Because like my first stint was at ABC Sport, and I was doing a sports show there with a former Triple J colleague in Declan Byrne, and sitting in the office talking to some of the grandstand guys, and they were like, "Is your dad Rocket Rod?" And I go, yeah. They go, "Oh, 95 grand final, I was on the bus and I was reporting with the dogs. This is Andrew Moore, the great Andrew Moore, and he's like talking to me about it. And then everyone, that was like one day. The following week, everyone was like, hey, everyone kind of come from nowhere. Your dad's Rod Silva. Like it was kind of spread through the office. And then it was, have you ever thought about doing sideline commentary? And I just have.
Have you ever thought having the keys to the city?
Yeah. So such has been the way of my entire career. I'm a yes person. And I was like, actually, I've been thinking about sideline commentary for a long time. At that point, from what I had, absorbed from watching footy coverage, I thought it was just like when Freddie Fittler talks about the conditions on the field, like that's all of sideline commentary. And I was like, I can talk about the sprinkling of the rain and the damp surface. Like, let's go.
Easy.
But it's a bit different. But, like, thank goodness there are plenty of older men who want to talk about Rocket Rod and 95 or particularly the 98 prelim final against Parramatta when they were down. See, I know this. This is how much we've had this conversation.
It's one of the greatest games of all time.
One of the greatest. I have watched it. Again,
I think Paul Carriage is actually unfairly lambasted for that game. It's just personal view. We can go.
I've heard the story of what happened in the coach's office the next day with him and John Simon. They were told immediately, go look for another club. And it was just like the most dire situation of all time. That's a great one. Anyway, rugby league law.
Because you wouldn't have been born when he won in 95, right?
I was 3 weeks old.
You were 3 weeks old. Apologies, right? Okay. So, but like, have you heard stories about your dad, like playing league in the 90s? Have you heard stories and you're like, nah, that's not my dad? Was he loose? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Was he loose? No, Dad was.
No, he's a respectable
Everyone
man.
always says like,
Dad. Police.
He's a police officer.
He's a police officer.
Yes. So he joined the cops whilst playing. He was in that last generation that had other jobs.
Right, okay.
So he went to the academy in an off season and was doing like night shifts into playing.
I get it now because if he's a cop and he leaves in 2001 and then the Bulldogs team went off the rails after that, there's no police. I just said off the rails. I'm not saying anything else. We don't have to go there. But it's now coming together.
Yes. But he... my dad's never really been much of a drinker. Like he'll have, sort of one big night a year.
Okay.
And as a player, like his best mate sort of in the back end of his career is Hazem El Masri. So they, were the like two guys who'd be in the hotel room together. Not doing much. Like mum is a bigger drinker than dad, and she has better stories from their days, to be completely honest. Like the wags that go hard.
90s wags.
90s wags.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
People have been sleeping on the 90s wags.
And, Dad had, finished the game. She hasn't watched a second of it because she can't stand rugby league.
Okay.
Loves her husband, but didn't love the game at all and can't believe that I'm now a part of it. Right. But she talks about like her and her best mates from that period, all the other wives, they get there as early as possible. As soon as the creche opened, we'd get chucked in the creche at Sydney Olympic Park for the home games, and they wouldn't have to look at us for a couple of hours. They go straight up to those boxes, free piss for hours, and then poor old Dad after a hard game and have to drive everyone home and make sure they stop at Macca's and all that kind of stuff. So she's got the better stories for sure.
Yeah.
On that front.
I mean, we were just saying off air because it just seems like because you're surrounded by professional athletes your entire life, right? And then your dad obviously a successful rugby league career. It seems obvious that you would have gone into that as well. But we were just saying off air, you were saying like it's actually surprised you that you've ended up in sport.
Yeah, I think potentially, like without getting too earnest, I think that as I was growing up, as much as there was a part of me that wanted to be a rugby league player, not that I have any sporting prowess, but like you grow up around that and you think that's success. That's what success looks like. I truly didn't think that there was a space for women in the game. Like at that time, we sort of just had, while I was at school, Erin Mullen kind of doing the footy show, and then there was all that sort of fallout from that and whatever, and you kind of were like, oh, there's no way that girls are going to be able to be super welcomed into the sport. And I just didn't, I think for that reason, mentally, I was like, yeah, that's not where I'm going to end up. Always wanted to tell stories, that like people care about or, do something good. And then having kind of explored lots of different other parts of storytelling and media and whatever, in COVID, nothing else is happening but sport. And I've still always been so entrenched in it socially and also just out of interest that it was like, oh, cool, maybe I can NRLW started, AFLW started. There's more women on TV. Maybe I can just start, telling sports stories. And then it was quite an organic thing that way. And I have definitely been benefited by knowing so many people in the space and knowing so many players. I think, even we talk about the old blokes who want to talk about Rocket Road back in the day, but there are players now who are mates who, have a lot of respect for Dad or have a good understanding of sort of rugby league history and stuff. And I think as a reporter kind of trust me to not be looking for some headline. I'm very much interested in who you are as a person, how you got here, the stuff you care about away from the game, because I think that's more interesting. Because we've kind of heard all the other stuff before. But
that's to be fair to you and to keep the earnest theme, that's a skill that transcends just having grown up with a rugby league legend as a father, right? I mean, you're a media comms, you have a media comms degree, right? You have covered Indigenous issues, women's issues, cultural issues in prisms outside of sport, but now you're just doing it through sport.
Yeah.
Right? How do you find sport as a vehicle through which to cover those broader issues?
I think it's the most influential lens to look at those issues through in Australia, because the Australian identity is so fraught. We can't agree on anything, but we all love sport.
Mm-hmm.
It's some kind of sport, There's something that, and when you look at the Olympics, right? The second that there are Aussies in, we all know what canoe slalom is now.
Yes.
We've never knew what that was before Jess Fox, right? We all were, and we care about it, and we get so invested and so patriotic when it comes to sport. And I love that, and I think that's the best thing about our country. And there's so many other things that I, would love to see change, and I know we can be better and whatever, but coming into sport and being able to tell stories about an incredible athlete who works as a forklift driver and provides for her 2 kids, but then goes and plays NRLW after, and she just happens to be a female athlete, that sticks with people in a way that changes their mind about what they think about women's domestic competitions and blah, 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 better than, I think more effectively than any of the other storytelling I've done. Because I think maybe when we first met, Pez, I was more screamed down people's throat and this is not sweet and whatever. And you just never get anywhere with anyone. And people love hearing good stories of athletes because they're our heroes in this country for, sometimes for better or for worse. And I'd rather focus on the for better.
So has that been your trajectory, for want of a better term? Did you feel a few 10 years ago that you were a little bit more angry about some of those fraught elements of Australian identity with good reason, it must be said, and that you're when we did our a Walkley award-winning piece of content that just never got submitted. Gee, that would have only been 2 or 3 years after the Adam Goodes situation, which is happening largely around Sydney, but also around Australia. So what you were a little bit more enraged by that kind of thing, whereas today you channel it more through positive stories about people's lives. I'm putting words in your mouth.
But you're synthesizing that correctly. I definitely think. Growing up, I was given such a privileged life because of what, mum and dad had been able to provide for me. And I think being an Aboriginal woman in this country, you're born politicised. So sort of you become an adult, I was very politically engaged and interested in trying to do something good and give back to community and the like. And the more I sort of realised the state of things and, external people's sort of thoughts and ideas around stuff, I was really angry for a long time, but I was angry in an unproductive way. So I think it's a little bit you get worn down by the conversations, but also just becoming more of a realist, right? I have to think of myself as a consumer. What are the stories that or what are the things that influence me? And it's the stuff that makes me feel good. It's not the stuff that makes me angry or upset. Sometimes that's just so emotionally draining. You want to talk about the good stuff. I have a mate who is a loose unit nutcase in like the most obscure way. He's currently walking. He's walking around the world, right? This is his life's goal.
Right.
He's been walking for 2 years. This is a whole other thing.
You know what? We're going to walk around the world.
How? How are you doing that? Heaps of water.
Yeah, heaps of water. He got on someone's boat. Like he walked from Sydney to Darwin, got on someone's boat to the closest Indonesian island, and then just kind of popped his way through.
Okay.
It's near Uzbekistan or something now. Crazy.
Was he on a treadmill on the boat?
Yeah.
That he probably should have done.
You see, it's very autistic. So is he still walking when he's on the boat, or what? If he says he's going to do it,
he's cheating. He's cheating. He can't do that.
Sorry, Marlee.
No, that's great. I'll give that feedback to him. His name's Alexander Campbell, if anyone.
Okay. He's not getting the Ned Brockman publicity. I mean, Brockman just went across the country.
Yeah.
This guy's walking across the world a couple times to boot.
I'm hoping by the time he gets back to Australia, we're getting some Ned Brockman sort of attention.
Yeah, okay, let's get him on.
But what he said to me, I interviewed him trying to like get him started on socials before he left, because I was like, dude, you can't not tell people about this. This is insane and it's amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, you're going to be walking through these like communities where you don't speak the language. Like, do you feel scared? Are people, you know, he's done walks through India and stuff before. And I was like, what have you experienced? He's like, you know what? People are generally good. People generally want to help you. They want to offer you a meal. They want to give you a place to sleep. They just want to have a conversation with you, even if it has to be, you know, through, I don't know, sign language or whatever it is if you can't speak the same language. And that has stuck in my head since he said it like 2.5 years ago. Like, and I'm like, yeah, people are good. Like, people want to do good shit. So like, let's tell good stories to that make, you know, feel more like a hug.
It's almost like, I reckon in 2025, that kind of idea, which is so rooted in reality and most people's actual experience, is almost like a, it's almost like a zealously ambitious goal to do it in media, because there is just too much incentive and reward for doing things provocatively and divisively. You know, like you're right. Most people are good. In fact, and most people who follow sport, their views and opinions are largely reasonable, and they're not really reflected in the media that we get, whether you like Aussie rules or rugby league or whatever. Like, because there's so much space to fill, and like media theory sort of just dictates that people are more likely to click if you piss them off. You know, with things covering the real story behind somebody's almost like a crazy act.
Yeah. I mean, when you put it like that, I even think like at the beginning of both footy code seasons, we always have that like emergence of the like AFL versus NRL kind of like
and
media.
it's awesome, right?
And it's like, oh yeah, which one's better and blah, blah. We ask that question every year, and obviously NRL's the greatest game of all. But
that's right, because that's the brand.
But
line,
I
right?
think for the most part, again, Aussies just like going to sport. To do something on the weekend, to catch up with your mates, to, you know, scream at something, like release a bit of energy, whatever. And, you know, as I've heard Swans games are now, to pick up, like they're dating.
Oh, yeah. It's a dating place.
Spots now or whatever, like to have a fun time. And I think
I'm married, but I'm not my best self at the footy, but that's what sort of people do.
I know. I would never have been able to pick up
that's
a footy
right.
game. The way that I scream at things is so unattractive. So thankfully I didn't have to do that. But I just think, you know, in the same way, like you're exactly right. Like we as the media get more clicks if we're trying to pit people against each other. But
or an algorithm incentivizes you to do it.
Exactly.
Right? So you end up just doing it.
When you've spoken to like some of the highest profile people in the game now, like Nathan Cleary, Ponga, Val Holmes, Trbojevic brothers, all three of them. Do you find like a common thread between their stories, like their connection to their family, their cultures, perhaps? Talking about like good stories which you get to get out of these players. Like, is there a common thread, or are they all like so distinctly unique?
I feel really lucky. I've spoken to, you know, some of the most successful in our game, some of the most incredible players. And that common thread...
This is Marlee and me, right?
Marlee, yeah. I didn't come up with the name, by the way. My boss did at 9. I was a bit like, oh, do we really want my name to be... But it's working. Like, I think it makes sense.
There's a lot of people who want to watch the movie who just find the podcast and go, great, this is
they
awesome.
just have a little spelling error 2 weeks and then that's a really good idea. But I think the commonality with all of them is how they see what they're doing in their career as being something bigger than them. So it's, I want to be successful in order to make my family proud, or for some of the boys who grew up with nothing, I want to be able to buy a house from my mum, or I want to, make my kids proud, or, they always say, I always ask them, what do you, 20 years time at the pub when someone goes, I remember the, Travojeviches, like remember them? I said to the boys, I was like, what do you want people to say? And I don't mean about the premierships that you hope to win, with Manly or whatever, but what if they've run into you at a coffee shop, what do you want them to say? And all of them say, I just want to be remembered as a good person who did right by my family and did right by my club. And that's really nice. And I think it's, I always come out of those conversations just feeling so uplifted and ready to fight anyone who wants to talk rubbish about them. Seriously, I think, last year having like Kalen Ponga, we interviewed him sort of just after all the concussion stuff, and then there was questions about his career and blah, blah, blah. And people talk a lot of rubbish or whatever. Him and Nathan Cleary, there's a lot that is said about them, I think, just because of how good they are. And I came out of both of the conversations like, if I ever hear someone talk about them like they're dickheads, I will fight you, because these are people who just want their families to be proud.
Yeah.
And it's really nice. And it's really dangerous to make any athlete a role model. But what they're talking about in the conversations I get to have with them, there's elements of that I think is totally appropriate to role model for like the next generation.
Now there was an incident last year at Shark Park where you're on the field for Channel 9, you're with Brad Fittler and you're with your housemate at the time, Nico Hines.
Yes.
Of the Sharks, of course. And Freddie's asking you, what's Nico like around the house? And I think he might have been injured at the time. And you're saying, well, he sort of strops around the house when he's injured and he's no good. And he's replied back, tell you what, you don't want to sit next to her on the couch. She absolutely stinks.
Yeah. And then I think he also says she never showers.
Hang on, who said that?
Nico did.
Nico said that. Oh, that's great.
And he added, and she doesn't shower very often. And she
Nice.
I think he also says she farts a lot.
Right.
So got all of that in there. And
that's all in there. Yeah. And then you have to throw
so
back.
he didn't miss.
Yeah.
No. And he was so proud of himself.
So you were going for a bit of light ribbing, like, when he's injured, he's no good. And he's like, she stinks.
Yeah. He did.
How was that conversation?
So, we obviously
Thanks, Nico.
we get told, before the game who we're going to be interviewing. And at the time, Nico gets a lot of media and he was getting sick of it. And I had my producer text me being like, hey, can you ask Nico if he's sweet for a chat? And I was like, yeah. And I said to him, oh, come on, it'll just be me and Freddie, it'll be fun, blah, blah, whatever. And at first he was like, nah, I'm not doing it. And I was like, come on. And then he thought about it for a bit and then he was like, the next morning, on game day, yeah, I'll do it. And I realised in hindsight is because he was prepared to rip me in some way.
Right, okay.
But he saw the benefit of doing the conversation, not updating the fans on where his injury was at, but rather just ripping into me.
Because you guys have been mates for years, right?
Yeah. So we met him when he was playing down here in Melbourne through a mutual mate, and then he sort of signed with Cronulla and text my sister and I saying, you're the only people I know in Cronulla, you have to be my friends.
Okay.
And I kind of was like, yeah, okay, sweet, we'll be friends.
Yeah.
Didn't like him the first time I met him.
Okay.
And then he's become the brother I never asked for.
Right.
So I do love him a lot. But he...
And now he's good mates with Scott Morrison.
Yeah, we didn't get that conversation on before. But yeah, no, that was so funny. Do you know what was funnier? I just went, I just rolled my eyes and I threw back to the studio. I had Paul Gallen genuinely worried about me, and Emma Lawrence and a few of our producers.
They thought
and
this
stuff.
was going to be an incident.
They text me and they're like, "Are you all right? That was so rough." And I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Okay, you've clearly not lived with a couple of boys before because the kind of stuff they say to me every day, I am beaten down. I am, so used to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, anyone who has a brother knows what that's like. It, I do shower. It's not real. I don't have a flatulence problem. It's fine.
It's just normal.
Yeah.
How was the chat when you got home that night?
Oh, he just had the biggest smile on his face.
He was pleased with himself.
He was so happy.
Yeah.
And after he'd been that stroppy all 6 weeks of the injury, I was like, you know what? It's better than you sooking. So I'm happy to be, a bit of a victim of it.
You could have faked a letter to the Sharks PR team though as well, and just made him think there was going to be a scandal.
Yeah.
About it. Anyway, I'm just.
I think the Daily Mail wrote an article about it.
Oh, there you go.
But they framed it as hilarious moment between Channel 9 reporter and Nico Hines.
Oh, wow. Daily Mail.
Well, you handled it well like an absolute pro. You just threw straight back, and then I think Nico was just chuckling away.
Yeah.
When you started with the ABC, doing sideline the ABC, I don't know, but I'm going to guess that the feedback initially would have been from the punters. Who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily just a female presenter thing, though, of course, it's a huge part of a woman talking about male sport. But like anyone that appears on the television for the first time on radio, who are you to talk to me about the thing that I like?
Yeah.
Was the feedback that?
Are you prepping me for what happens once this episode comes out?
Oh, no, we get that about us.
Okay,
We're not talking about
I'm
cricket.
talking about myself.
Yeah.
How do you get past that?
Yeah, absolutely. First, so I'd done a season of NRLW.
Right.
Sideline to begin with, because it was the year we had 2 NRLW seasons, which was awesome. That was a really great year for women's footy. And we just finished that, and then I got my first opportunity to do a men's game. Did my first throwdown. It was pissing down raining in Wollongong. My umbrella was pointless because it was coming in sideways.
Yeah.
And I, was trying to carry notes and a, microphone and do the whole thing or whatever. And I was so scared. And I did it and I felt good. And then immediately on the text line, and I all respect for my colleagues who read this out to be in staunch defense of me. But it was what's Marlee's footy credentials? Within 2 seconds.
Yeah, right.
Which I expected.
Mm-hmm.
And again, very well meaning. My colleague was like, Marlee Silva, her dad is Rod Silva.
Right.
He's played this many games at NRL. He won the 95 premiership, blah, blah, blah. The whole sort of thing. And she's been doing our NRLW coverage. So, she's more than qualified to be here. And it's, again, I understand that the context of what Dad's done is relevant, particularly to an audience like ABC Sport.
Yeah.
Who are generally of an older demographic and are the diehards who've listened to the same grandstand team for, 15, 20 years. So I remember being pissed off a little bit, but getting it at the same time. And then I got an email. Someone guessed, because the ABC emails are pretty easy to guess. And someone had guessed mine correctly and wrote me this impassioned piece of feedback about me saying too much. And he'd counted how many times I said in the coverage.
It's a normal person right there.
Which I was like, whoa, that's a lot of effort, my guy.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
respect.
Yeah.
And then, so, stuff like that.
It's a very specific genre though, that thing. I often see, and it's only women presenters will and I presume this is only a small percentage of how much it actually happens, but this genre of guy who writes a War and Peace length of feedback about something really superficial to do with the woman presenting, whether it's fashion or whether it's something very superficial around the use of language or something like that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of my female colleagues would probably have, an array of stories that are similar to that. And I'm often asked what's it like, having come through this male dominated space and what do you face and whatever. And I'm so lucky. I've come in at the perfect time. And to be completely honest, while of course there's still structural barriers in place for more women to be in it, and I can only speak for myself, the negative experiences I've had have only been with, punters who occasionally will say something like that, and I kind of just laugh. Because it's such a supportive work environment I'm in, and there are so many women who are on screen, in AFL and NRL now, which is so cool. And it's not weird for me to be there.
Yep. True.
And I think if it were, 10, 15 years ago, it was such an anomaly. So I'm really lucky to be in it at this time. And don't get those kind of questions anymore.
No.
Do you same before, we haven't seen each other for nearly a decade, but I've seen you a lot on socials, and I'm sure vice versa, we've been meaning to get in touch. And we often talk hear fourth wall stuff about how we try and avoid getting sucked into the like incentives and the vortex of just being like a social clip merchant, someone who's mainly known through your like 30-second stints on social, and to try and continue to do like explore forms of media that are more long form, which is more of a challenge, right? And you've got a documentary coming out in a couple of weeks time on NITV. So again, underscoring your credentials, because making documentaries must be an enormous like labour of love, right? It's called Skin in the Game, NITV, a couple of weeks time. I've seen one trailer. You're with your dad going out to Mount Druitt where he grew up, and he's talking about his career in rugby league in the context of what he experienced growing up, and it kind of links to what you were saying earlier about players who have a deeper purpose for their success, right? So what was it like making that?
Yeah, labour of love is the right term. It's been 3 years since the initial conversation, and that all came about literally at the beginning of my sports media career, right? Like bizarre timing. Again, one of the things that I did during COVID was be a freelance research producer for a production company. I didn't even know what that was. Yeah. But we, at that time I was just looking for money, and this was this awesome production company called Southern Pictures, who would just really took the time to get to know me and my story and where I was headed, and sort of like watch me go onto ABC and really, start doing stuff in women's sport in particular. And they'd heard about the fact that I really always wanted to tell Dad's story on a bigger stage, because what he's overcome to have an incredible successful career as a player, but then also provide for the life that I've been able to live is, something I'm really proud of. And yeah, it's weird because like one conversation turns into another conversation 6 months down the track, turns into, hey, we're going to shoot something over 2 days while you're doing some commentary with ABC, and then if NITV likes it, they'll pay for a full documentary.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And then we did it, and then I got a phone call probably 3 months after that, like, yeah, we've been greenlit, like we're making a doco. And then I started filming it the end of, what are we in, 2023. And then we finish it. And then I ended up in France in a rugby stadium where it was premiered at this part of a film festival.
Wow.
Bizarre. But the crux of
it must be awesome. I got like it, sorry to interrupt, but like the trailer is like, it hits you very hard. It's very emotional. You spoke earlier about telling positive stories of players. Now, like we've seen things like this in the media, and so often they're actually sponsored by players, and it can lurch into PR, right?
Yeah.
Some of this stuff. Yeah. That's not what your stuff is. I mean, you're telling the story, like you're chronicling your dad's upbringing. It's very emotional. It doesn't seem to avoid any hairy parts.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think like the broader conversation that Skin in the Game has is that my dad grew up in a household that was marred by domestic violence, and rugby league was his saving grace. That's what got him out of that. And, I've been raised to believe that rugby league is a sport that can change people's lives. But I'm also, you even made reference to the 2004 Bulldogs scandal, right? Like the sport that I love so much hasn't been without its faults. And it's not a criticism. The Skin in the Game is not a criticism of rugby league. It's presenting an opportunity that the sport, and I think broader sport in Australia, has to do more to protect women and girls from gendered violence. So we speak to a professor from a Queensland university who's done research who shows the more that you profile female athletes, the more that you celebrate them, and the more that you give space to male athletes to be vulnerable and to tell their stories in a way that is essentially through a feminist lens, even though that's a dirty word. But it's
not. It's been made dirty.
A dirty word, right? The more that you do that, the research shows the people who engage with that, the people who engage with the sport, have better attitudes towards women and girls. And it's, to me, that is like so simple and so like obvious. And so I guess Skin in the Game was such a journey and an exploration that landed in a spot where I'm like, I'm so excited about the future of our game. I'm so excited about the future of sport in this country because of where women are and how much they're kind of coming up through the ranks, but also in this equally in how our male athletes are being encouraged to talk about when they've struggled or talk about, you know, I've had quite a few boys get teary-eyed and cry on my podcast and stuff, and they're not afraid of that, and it's really nice. Like the culture's changed a lot from that boys club. So it's essentially the whole premise of the documentary is just showing that that's a really great thing and we should take that and run with it because it's good for broader Australia.
Do you think we're living in the good times right now with rugby league? You know, like you've got obviously got the Vegas thing going on for the next 5 years. There's the NRLW's going great. You know, there's possible Perth expansion because the AFL have Harley Reid, or you know, the PNG side because we have China.
No, that's quite a good idea actually. Roger Cook just won the election over the weekend, so we'll be sitting down with Landies and the Bears are back.
So it's good news.
We're ready to rock.
You know, there's Dragons fans throwing pies at Bulldogs fans. On TikTok. You know, are these the good times we're living in right now? Is rugby in a good spot? Is I guess what I'm asking.
I'm a relentless optimist. I think we're in a really good spot, but I think we also can't ignore, you know, some other headlines that have come out in the last 24 hours about, you know, a particular player who had some charges against him and it was dropped and he's been told he's allowed to play straight away. Like that sort of stuff is, you know, revealing of some of the issues that still exist. But I would say overall, yes, particularly because of the direction of what the women's game is going. But then you also like the fallout after Vegas was, well, next year the Gillaroos can't be a part of it because that was boring and people got up from their seats.
Because again, that's just England stuff, right? England just needs to raise their game.
England's problem.
Yeah, that's, you know, that should not be a mark on the Gillaroos. That shows how we are the best in the world. And how can you not find joy in the fact that we smoked England in something? Yeah. I love smoking England in things. Like that's the best ever.
Totally.
But yeah, so there's still a few of those things where, you know, the girls are sort of first one in, last one's in, first one's out.
Right.
And, you know, pay parities or also a conversation and whatever. But I think it's just not losing that sense of urgency when it comes to pushing for the women's game and, you know, having a high standard when it comes to people doing the wrong thing. Just positioning the game as like, nah, we're not about that. We're a positive force that can and has made, you know, really positive change in a lot of individuals' lives and their families' lives. But yeah, that's all the like, that gets real sticky when you get into some of that. But I do, like, I'm the biggest rugby league tragic, obviously. Like you know, it's my religion. Yeah. And I believe in it in a lot of ways.
That's the way, that's, you know, and I know there are people who get sensitive about these things, but it's a normal way to express your love for something is actually to want to make things better or to see it go in a direction that, or to acknowledge things that it could improve upon.
Yeah. I've been a Bulldog supporter most of my life, right? And we went through the last 10 years of suffering purely on a performance level and how critical I have been and how many times I've called that club and that team lots of names and been very angry about it and why did we buy this player and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. We all do that as fans for the things that we love the most in this world. Like you're allowed to, you talk about, I was speaking at on a panel about documentaries last week and the moderator said, the doco is a love letter to the sport. Like you're not burning down the house. You're just saying, hey, we have this opportunity to be really good and do something really good with it. And I was like, yeah, I can't burn down the house. I'm inside the house. I'm in the house. No, I love the house. The house is amazing. I just want to fix a few door hinges and, you know, open some more windows and invite more people in. Like that's the whole thing. It's one of those things again, like that I never thought would be something that I do, but you know, just say yes. Say yes.
All right. Look, I don't know how Daily Mail you want to get on this, and it would actually probably be more entertaining if you just shut the door on this and just shut it down straight away. But there's a lot of people talking about Nathan Cleary and Mary Fowler. I want to talk about Marlee Silva and Wes Agar.
Let's talk.
Let's talk brass shut tacks. It down now if you choose not to leverage your own private life for the sake of content on a stupid podcast. But you know, you two are together. Have been for some time. and Wes is a friend of the show.
Yes.
Great. And the Agars are friends of the show.
Yeah.
Talk about high standards as you were before. I mean, what a family. What a wonderful set of boys.
A little bit too good.
They are. Yeah. The
Too
grace in the
perfect.
class is a little suspicious to me.
Yeah. Oh, I can tell you some things about Wes, but
So, I don't really know where to start. I mean, have you got him into league? You know, obviously he's from these parts. He lives in Adelaide,
Yes.
etc. That the family's moved over to Perth. You're in Sydney, so I already see an arm wrestle going on there symbolically. But where's Wes sitting on league, and maybe more importantly, where are you sitting on cricket?
yeah, I can tell you, Wes Agar is a huge rugby league fan.
Really?
Wow, that's
Huge.
enormous
Wow.
For Christmas, my dad got him his own Canterbury Bankstown
He's going
Bulldogs
to be
cap.
Bulldogs fan,
Okay,
right?
dogs.
He's got. He went and bought his own heritage jersey. He posts every week, you know, if they win on his
Shit,
story.
he's got all
That's a big get for the
my
dogs.
My dogs. Yeah, loves them through and through, and has said to me like he loves watching it so much because he's learning the sport. Like he loves learning it, and
Is he a big Aussie rules guy, like natively? Like, does he like
he
it?
is a Saints fan.
Okay.
Was a Saints,
Suffering.
suffering Saints fan. So
Yeah.
I think we got him at a vulnerable time.
Yes. Yeah.
And then, like I said to him, you don't understand. Like the dogs have been dog shit,
Yes.
for a long time, and we are on the way up. And you've come in at this time, like we have suffered, and you're enjoying the.
Are you
the
upset he hasn't felt the pain?
He surely has one upped you on that with the Saints, though.
Yeah.
With respect.
Yeah.
He's like,
But he did feel-
we've been suffering. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Since the 60s.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He did feel a bit of the pain when Manly took us out in that final last year. He was just shocked by it, and I was like, oh no, this is what happens. So yeah, but he loves it, and he just loves watching rugby league, which is really cool. And he loves the women's game, obviously because I'm on screen.
I'm
a
not
lot of the time.
surprised. The Agars are just progressive.
Yeah, he's very into it, but more miraculously, and I think, you know, this is part of the reason that I reached out to you, Sam. I can't believe that I like cricket.
Shit.
Whoa.
Are you okay?
I'm on the public record. I'm on the public record in my career as having said that is the world's most boring sport. And why does anyone watch it?
That's fine.
And like what?
Yeah,
like
agree.
who cares about cricket?
Yeah.
And when I
agree.
first met Wes, and I was like, oh, what do you do for a job? Like, you know, like he'd slid into my DMs on Instagram. So, and I saw like there's like a verified tick and stuff. I'm like, so you do something.
Yeah.
And then you kind of look and you're like, oh, there's like cricket.
He just bought a Meta subscription.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. And
He's got
$14
$6 a month.
how do you guys know the price of that just straight away?
No, Wes told us. Wes told us.
We're talking about Wes in Darwin.
Yeah.
But
Over a mocktail.
when it's like, and even when if I say of people like, oh, who's your partner or what does he do or whatever, and you go, oh, he plays cricket, and he goes, and they think you're talking like on a Saturday. He plays
Oh, yeah.
No,
We imagine that in
no,
league
no.
circles as well.
Yeah,
my partner's a cricketer.
No,
What about during the week?
Yeah.
Yeah. What does he do
right.
for money? Like, he plays cricket. That's his job. Really? And then, like, because he was in Sydney for Big Bash, and Big
Is
Bash
that influenced by you as well? Like, is it?
I like to think so.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
It's a big win for the
win.
Sydney Thunder that you're.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, like after that finished, people have been like to me, so like, what does Wes do now? I'm like, oh, there's like state cricket. And they're like, what? And you're like, yeah, like it's called Sheffield Shield. Like, it's,
Yeah.
like it's a thing. Like you can watch it on TV. I wouldn't recommend, but you can. And they just don't get it. Like most, if you're not cricket heads, like people don't know it. But I have to say, like I really was dreading the day of like sitting down and actually having to pay attention. But I can get around it, and you guys really helped with that because once after I was introduced to the grade cricketer and like I could listen, for me, as you guys can probably tell, I love a good storyline. I like the personalities. I want to know about the characters. I met Sam Constas a week before he got the call up to the Australia.
Yeah.
In the line to Northies. Right?
Of course.
Northies Institution
So he was in
of
the line.
Cronulla. He was in the line directly
Not these
behind
days.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would never wait in the line
yeah.
now. And I met this kid and I was like, you're about 14. Like I look in your face, you're 14 years old. I want to see your ID before you come into Northies. But I just loved him straight away. And then having had that interaction and then the next week, you know, all the stuff happens and he goes and whatever, like just having those touch points has helped me like care as you come through, and then hearing about all the little intricacies. And like cricket's not without drama. Like I thought cricket was like a little bit of a too posh a sport. Or,
like an expression of like English civility and stuff from too long ago.
Like what kind of sport has tea?
Yeah, exactly.
And doesn't play when it's raining.
It's a very strange sport.
Then it can draw after 4 days. Mm-hmm. Like that was stuff I was just like, what the heck? But I've found things that are make it bearable.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of stuff. I found myself in an Uber the other night talking about the Champions Trophy. Is that what it's called? That's what it's called?
No, it's good. Well, the Prime Minister called it Champions League, which is pretty much right.
And that's why that was in my head just then, because you told me that before. I went to say Champions League. It's not Champions League. That's
it would have been good if you called
That's
it
a round ball football thing, Champions League.
Yes.
Right? No, Champions Trophy. And I knew like what the whole thing and Pakistan and India and Dubai, and I knew all of that. And I was like, what the hell? Who have I become? So it's been an evolution. There's a part of me that has a little bit of shame about it.
That's normal. That's normal when you know cricket.
But I'm very proud of my partner and what he does. Yes. So that's an important thing for me to say.
Yes. Well, he's a good player. Well, Marlee, you're sitting here with your sister Keely as well.
She snuck in.
A wonderful sports person yourself, Keely. There's no microphone on you. I'm just going to say it right there, but very aware. So again, just runs in the family. And it's actually, again, it's sort of, it's a bit humiliating for us as per. But you guys have to get to the F1, right? I think, once again, no start for the boys at the F1.
No glamour on the grid?
No, nothing. Nothing. No one sports pod again for 3 weeks running. But
talking about storylines, like F1, like how big that has become here because of Drive to Survive.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only reason. It is like, I drove, it's only just down the road from us here. I drove through it the other day. The stands are getting bigger and bigger every year. Like it's completely sold out. It's the first race of the season this year and stuff.
No stuff for the boys, but
yeah.
Sorry, I'm still going over here.
There are more seats available and less for us.
Yeah.
Anyway,
what time does this pod come out? Can you put that clip out there and beg for someone to give you a ticket? Or
it's too late now. I don't want to be anywhere I'm not wanted. But
okay. Tell us what you really think.
Although if there is a ticket going,
you can ask a question. No dramas. What you're there for glamour on the grid?
Glamour on the grid tonight.
Well, maybe that's the issue.
So that's just spending 3 hours in hair and makeup to then be in an absolute state by the end of the night. like if we're honest, it's good fun, great photos, good for the content, and free alcohol.
And who do you like for the race? Exactly. Me too.
Yeah. Ferrari.
I'm doing some stuff with like McLaren. And so Piastri is Australian.
There you go.
That's good. The amount of people you see that are just floating around on the grid on Sunday for race day, it's like it's everyone who's anyone is on that grid. Now, we're literally down the road. We won't be there.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
But,
we've got a car park here if anyone needs one. We'll be selling that.
Yeah. Make a good extra buck doing that for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But we will let you both. We'll let you both go. Marlee Silva, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a long time between drinks for us. About a decade, and so we'll probably see you in another 10 years. Another thing that we'll
see you Sunday.
Hopefully, podcast is still around in 10 years.
We'll see. I guess. Yeah. I guess we'll find out, and we'll see you Sunday.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
No, that's all right.
Thanks very much to Marlee Silva for coming in. And
check out our documentary. Check it out. There's no planned plug for that. The trailer's unbelievable. NITV. Marlee with her dad, skin in the game. You can tell by how she talks. She's a very accomplished media operator and storyteller in her own right.
She's very good.
Yeah.
All right, should we get into Boys Actually before we wrap up the show?
Boys Actually, a couple things. Higgos, get your Boys Actually in. So obviously, this is a long show, the circus. We're going to make plenty of errors. We love the what you got to understand is, where we're wrong, Boys Actually, all that kind of prefacing. Because we're trying to cover sports in a kind of in a general way, and there are going to be some niche followers of sports. Their ears are going to be screeching. Having fingers down the chalkboard, listening to the way we talk about some stuff.
Right.
Nicola, Josh and Lily wrote in, based on last week's show, shit interview with the comedy boys from Perth. I don't give a fuck about making comedy or pods or clips. Stay in your lane. Surely you can find some D-grade or third-grade footy player to interview. Cheers.
Right.
GH says, cyclone season, it's always been windy. Regards. Charlie's internet search history. Isaac says, boys, I think it's important we set the record straight. We were talking about punter last week.
Okay.
When punter drove the green on par 4 at the New Zealand Open, the hole was not 300 to 320 metres as suggested by Higgos. The commentary clearly states that he was hitting from approximately 250 metres away, which given the swing speed seems to be more accurate.
Okay.
Therefore, this raises further questions. Does the forearm hair make up for the fact that he was playing from the front tees? Does the front tees and broomstick combo hurt punter's image? Do we have to rethink everything about golf and cricket after this event? I would love to hear both of your salient advice. This message is brought to you by 28 Handicap, who regularly does not hit it past the red tees and thus either has to buy beers or strip naked on the fairway. I like both, so I play shit on purpose. Cheers. Love the circus and long live rugby league.
That's good.
So you've made a mistake?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Do you own it?
I'm going to have to. Yeah, I'm going to have to.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to have to.
You may own it. There were people who still weren't accepting his use of the broomstick on account of being punter. They were just like, nah, broomstick, it's beat a cuck, I don't care who it is.
Yeah,
now, those people alpha dogs commenting online on Instagram.
I've got to say, like, I actually don't think I've ever played. Yeah, no, I have played with someone that used a broomstick, and it was weird. It's a weird thing, and I don't like it. I don't like the look of it, and I think that does count. You know.
And would you say that to punter face to face if he invited you to play with him?
Yep.
I don't like this. He's like, "What's your name?" I still haven't got a hold on your first name there, champion. The thing with punter, I can see punter making an extremely pragmatic decision about the putter he'd like to use.
He has done
like he'd be so into his golf, and he'd apply such a Rubik's Cube cricket lens to it. He'd be like, the broomstick putter yields greater results for me.
Yes.
And if it gives me an edge, that's what I'm doing. I don't care how I look. And you know why? Because I'm Ricky Ponting. No, truly. Like you could be like, I don't give a fuck.
But that is the answer, yeah. And I think we're entitled to say, bit yuck. What do you play off? 28?
I still am surprised though, because I see the way punter played his cricket as like, he still played his cricket like a man's man. You know what I mean? The way he batted. You know, he was a like he pulled the ball, you know what I mean? There wasn't really much pragmatic about it. Yep. You bowled into a certain quadrant. If it wasn't in that quadrant, he was dispatching you to 17 different places.
Yes.
Took his catches well, you know.
Threw the stumps down.
He could still bowl wheels. Like he was a man's man of a cricketer. His cricket would stand up in the 1970s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With those guys.
Yeah.
But he's a broomstick putter.
Yeah.
We're just going to have him in and ask him.
Have to. About his golf. He'd probably come in for golf.
I reckon there's I want to know what people think about this. I want to get cricketers in on the proviso there is zero cricket chat.
Yep.
You can't say any word about it.
Yep.
Noah says, "Hi boys, on Joe Maguire. My mum once told me they were going to name me Joe, but saw in the paper that Eddie Maguire named his kid Joe. They couldn't do it because he's a Collingwood guy, and that's bad, I guess. I bet Eddie feels silly now." On local footy, I know a chap who made an AFL list but never played. He gets paid $1,000 a game to play for some Timbuktu Vic country team. The kicker is that he lives interstate and he's flown in each week with one night's accommodation. I don't understand how this is possible in a fucking farmers league, but there you have it. $100,000 caps are reasonably common at top level local. A few local ex-AFL players knocking around, etc. Classic loophole is playing coach who doesn't need to fall under the cap. So learning more about how these caps work at local level. Want more information? Keen on more information on this sort of stuff. Anything you hear about local level salary caps or caps generally?
We were talking to Charlie. You can jump in here because you went to the what was the game you went to? It's South Melbourne and
Preston Lions.
Preston Lions.
Nice,
thank you. Yes.
Friday night,
and there was 9,000 people there.
Yeah, 9.
Yeah. And you were saying that there's a couple of players there that could play A-League, but they actually get paid more money to play in the NSL.
NPL.
Sorry.
There we go.
We're sorry.
That's boys actually.
Yeah, no.
Or in this segment.
Charlie and I were talking about the NSL the other day. And they earn more money by doing that and having a job.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have turned down A-League. They say it's because they can earn more money, but I think if you have faith that you'll have a successful professional career, you're probably going to the A-League. But there's people talk, and there's people getting $1,000 a week there and then having a job. So 2 salaries,
double dip.
That's right.
Oh wait, 2 salaries.
So cash in a bag.
So where do the best players from the A-League get poached from? Where do they go to Asia and play J-League or?
A lot of them are going to Europe now.
They get poached. If you're in the J-League, you ain't coming back to the A-League.
Yeah.
I think, unless your career's finished, right?
Yeah, so I'm saying like where like if you're 22 and you've had a great season in the A-League, where would you aspire to end up next? Like,
wouldn't
Saudi
you say
Arabia?
you played like Galatasaray 2's squad, like train on or something like that as well?
Yeah.
You're at Galatasaray Academy or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like a few players in the last year have gone to like Bayern or PSV from the A-League, like Australian players, and played in their tours, essentially.
Yeah, you have a lot of Dundee United trialists, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of like championship. Like it seems like the A-League now is becoming pretty much a development league, so it's a lot of people coming from like academies in the A-League.
Oh, so it's super young.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you hit a purple patch of good form, an overseas team they've been buying players very quickly, like after 5 or 6 decent games.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So how was that experience at Preston Lions South Melbourne the other night? How was it generally? It seemed fun.
It
like
looked hot.
9,000 people there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's like everything you'd expect from an ethnic football rivalry.
Which is what, mate? And tread very carefully.
Yeah.
Well, segregated crowds between like the home and away teams.
That's hot.
Yeah.
We had to wait 15 minutes to leave.
You were held back. Yeah.
We were held back because the away team got to leave first.
The shot that you had on Insta, or the little story you put up there.
Yes.
That was a Panenka pen as well, right?
Yeah, it was. So it was like 60th minute.
Is this funny?
Yeah.
This is good.
The keeper, the South Melbourne keeper, pretty much like tackled an attacker around the ankles because he took the ball off him. So he got sent off. And then apparently the keeper that came on for him, so they were down to 10 men. The keeper that came on.
0-0 this point?
0-0, yeah. He was like under 20s player or something, not a first choice. Comes on to face the penalty, gets Panenka like straight away. So his first bit of action in the game, he dives the wrong way and gets
Panenka. Yeah, that's
and then,
fucking cool.
yeah.
I guess if you're coming on as a reserve keeper, right, you're not thinking like, you know what, I'm just actually going to hold my ground here.
I'll stand still.
Yeah, got to
Yeah, I've got to dive one way. Massive
It's
save.
almost unsportsmanlike, from the pen taker.
I like it.
Yeah.
Panenka's a massive risk though, right? But I mean, fuck, how good is it?
And that's when when Zidane did it against Buffon in the 2006 World Cup.
I need
off the
that,
bar and in.
I need that ball to go in.
I know.
Better though.
I know, but like think of how fucking alpha that is.
It's so alpha, and then he headbutts a bloke. But
and they lose the World Cup.
I don't need the half second of did it go in. That's how good it was.
Yeah.
That's just for me. That's what I need.
Yeah.
All right, Nick says, thanks, Charlie. Nick says, boys, actually, the most egregious financial issue facing local AFL, well, contradiction in terms, at the moment has to be the cost of tins. $10 for a lukewarm VB,
Wow.
as if being left out of the squad week in, week out wasn't bad enough. It's a disgrace.
$10 tins.
Well, at my local ground, it's dry. You can't get a beer during the which I understand is like a.
I understand that's a rule as well. Yeah.
Like a competition wide.
So there must be
rule.
trying to price people out but also try and get a couple of sales through the.
I just
through the bar
surprised. It
there.
surprised me that you can't have a beer watching bit of footy on a Saturday
It must get
afternoon.
so
Does
raucous
it get
that wild? Yeah. Well,
it's Melburnians just can't be trusted.
I guess we're learning stuff, Pezzo.
Could you get a beer at the football, Charlie?
Yeah, but like there was so many people there, I didn't bother waiting in
Fair
line
enough.
for food or drinks.
Just on the nangs.
That's right. Yeah.
Finally, look, this is from Matt who says, "Boys, actually, this is one of those ones where they've come for the king. They've best not miss stuff,
okay.
and it kept going. And it just anyway. Matt says, "Boys, actually, while Pez was correct to Alpha listener Matt about Paul Kent's consumption of beer happening at the Sackville, I think you'll find that the infamous scuffle on this evening happened outside the Three Weeds Hotel on Evan Street, Roselle. Kent has subsequently revealed he never actually entered the aforementioned Three Weeds, but has passed on his walk home when the incident happened. If you do a Google Maps search, you may find Kenty's trees being labelled at the site." Cheers. Now, I would have ordinarily let that go,
Okay.
but it was the use of the term "I think you'll find" that dragged me in. It's called a straw man argument. Where the fight happened was never part of the conversation. The conversation was, where did he consume his 21 schooners? That was at the Sackville.
Yeah.
Max comes in and goes, "You'll find it's the Three Weeds." I say, "No, it's a Sackville."
Yeah.
Then Matt comes in, street names where the scuffle was. He goes, "I think you'll find it's there." I wasn't talking about where the scuffle
Didn't talk
was,
about
Matt.
scuffle, yeah.
I'm not talking about where the scuffle was. You can't boys actually me on something I didn't talk about.
I have learned something, though, from Matt, is that it's now on Google Maps. Someone's actually Google mapped the tree and called it Kenty's tree.
Kenty's tree.
That's fucking
Which
funny.
is great. And I don't mind if Matt wants to write and go, hey, I know the local area. It was on Evans Street, and I'm excited that you're talking about something in my local area. Just call that out. Right? It's not a boys actually though, and it's not an I think you'll find.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's right. It's not a I think you'll find. Pez, I've really enjoyed the show this week.
It was meant to be shorter, but there we go.
Marlee was a great chat. Great to have Marlee in.
Yeah.
Thanks for sticking with us. Really enjoying the circus so far. Please do follow us on Instagram. Share the clips around. Share the love around. We've been enjoying this little toe in the water outside of our usual business. But that's the circus for this week. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Cheers.